The voice of college football, Mark Rogers TV, coming your way on a Wednesday night. Hopefully, we've got some folks on the line. It is 6:30 Eastern Time, and it is, of course, therefore 5:30, 4:30, and 3:30 on the West Coast. Talking college football with you each and every day. The best discussion, debate, and analysis you will find anywhere online. So we had a scheduled live stream for 7 o'clock Eastern Time that unfortunately has been canceled. We were talking Ohio State football, had that lined up with Tony Gerdeman from the Ozone, who provides tremendous insight. Love the conversations with Tony, and he joins us on a regular basis. Could not make it tonight for our scheduled live stream at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Therefore, you are stuck with me, 6:30 to 7:30. Then I've got a couple of conversations lined up with Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts, talking to Ohio State, and also Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football on Oklahoma. We'll be back right here at 8:30 Eastern Time with Cam Underwood from State of the U talking Miami football. And then later tonight, I have a first-time guest on to talk Texas A&M. But those are recorded segments talking Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M that will be released in the next few days. Again, we've got a call-in show right now until 7:30 Eastern Time, and then we come back with Cam Underwood from State of the U at 8:30 Eastern. All right. If you're stopping by for the first time ever on our channel, so I assume that everybody on the live stream right now has seen us before, but there are often a number of people that stroll by the live stream and check in on college football, and here we are. If you love college football, this is the best spot right here. And so let me run down what we've got available. I counted 31 schools, 31 teams that we provided spring football reports on. Most of those 31 teams we provided multiple spring reports on. So please check out the videos there. Also, just a few days ago, I ran through my college football playoff format that makes complete sense. And I called it, I believe, the ultimate college football playoff debate. Whether it's 4 teams, 6 teams, or 8 teams, or what should it be? I certainly ran down my college football playoff format that, like my top 25, totally makes sense. And then also we're going to run through the schedules. I don't have the schedules right here. You know what? I got the schedules right here. No, I don't need to show you the schedules. You know the schedules. You can find the schedules online. But you talk about getting bug-eyed doing something. It's trying to compare schedules, trying to compare 68 Power 5 and independent schedules. That's a task. So I take it very seriously. I will be ranking the schedules. I have ranked all the schedules within the conferences. That's the first step. Rank all the schedules within the SEC, the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12, and then the independent schedules. So at least I got something to start by. And those are easier to, of course, compare because there's more likeness to the schedules and more common opponents, and then broaden it out from there. And that's where it becomes more difficult, is to compare a Big Ten schedule to a Big 12 schedule and so forth. But we will get it done. And unlike previous seasons, I will not be gasping for air at the finish line of that particular season, trying to get in scheduled previews with 3 days left in the season and still 18 to do. Nope, we're doing it right now, so it's going to be on the shelf. People are going to be able to enjoy our schedule rankings from now all the way up until kickoff. And as an added bonus this year, because people love this, I will include my projections on the records for each team in college football. Those will not be my official predictions, just my current projections. So keep that in mind. Those will not be my final predictions. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Navy Thomas A.
Oh,
Cletus, Mark Rogers.
Navy, how you doing, man?
I just had to give you a hard time about it.
Giving me a hard time about what?
Anything I can.
We were talking over each other there. Maybe I missed a really good joke.
Damn. Your volume is really sucking on my phone. What the hell's going on here?
I got some bad volume. Well, of course, we're on speakerphone. That could be part of the problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with my phone, but who knows? Who knows? You're loud and clear
No
for
worries,
us.
dude. No worries, dude. I'm always happy to talk to you and watch what you're posting up, and I absolutely love it. I love the group, and it's just lovely.
How have you been?
Oh, it's a fight with the therapist every day over the goddamn deal. Now we're playing Mano clap as it beats, and I'm always faster, so that's not a good thing, and whatever, okay.
Are you seeing some progress?
So like,
you'll get there.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be right on time, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you're on time.
Right
Yep.
down to on time.
Yep.
I want to talk to you, and I sent you a link to Twitter with the NCAA even screwing up the damn baseball.
So I used to cover baseball in the NCAA. I used to cover the college baseball down in the SEC, so I'm somewhat familiar with it, but don't track it right now. So what are they trying to screw up right now?
They're the top 25. Well, whoever does that, I don't know. Is that ESPN? Oh, sorry, they don't have a college baseball coverage. So
sure they do. 10. They do. Oh, there's a lot of college baseball on ESPN. Believe me.
They have, or they did have, Nebraska number 1 of the Big Ten, and Big Ten. They're not ranked in the top 25 of the whatever you call it.
The top 25 college baseball poll. So not tracking much college baseball in recent years, but the Big Ten has not been a strong baseball conference. I think you know that.
So what I was trying to tell you, they're trying to rank the SEC, the I think Atlantic, and the Pac that all have the warmer countries where they can play more ball. So the Big Ten. No, they're not allowed to even be ranked in the top 25. And I think about it when I look at the NCAA or however the top 25 in football and basketball, it's just getting ridiculously stupid in my mind.
Well, I got to say, Navy Thomas, the Big Ten has not been a strong baseball conference. I have no idea what the status of the Big Ten is right now. I have not covered the sport since 2000 when I went to the College World Series a couple times. So I can't even respond to what you're talking about. And Navy Thomas here trying to turn us into a college baseball show tonight.
But no, I wasn't trying to change it. I was just trying to throw my point in that when I worked for TSA at the Omaha airport, the Epley, I made a lot of great friends with the fans that flew in for the College World Series, and they were always Southern, SEC, what's that other Southern one?
Yes, the ACC. So, Navy Thomas, you understand that those teams won tournaments. They won regionals and super regionals to get to the College World Series. They were not selected to go to the College World Series. They won regionals and super regionals to get there.
But anyway, I just wanted to throw that info that what I have experienced. And now I'm looking what the NCAA is doing with the football conference.
Okay.
And I'm starting to have a problem with it.
Okay, what are they doing?
how many times over the last couple of years has the SEC made into the top?
Oh, you're talking about the college football playoff.
Four?
Sure. Okay.
Into the Pick Four, into the championship.
Sure. The SEC has never missed the college football playoff, and they put 2 teams in 2 years ago. So yes, there have been many more teams from the SEC not only appear in the college football playoff, but prior to that in the BCS championship game than the other conferences. So when the SEC says we won X number of national championships, it also has to be placed into context. Well, you've been given this many opportunities versus the Big Ten and the other conferences in particular that have been given far less number of opportunities. So that has to be placed into context. Yes.
Exactly where I was going with your latest video on that subject about the NCAA picking the 4 choices or whatever.
Sure.
I'm just like, I'd already send you the baseball, and we have seen it with the basketball, and I'm just like, this whole thing needs to, I don't know, it somehow it needs to be refigured.
I've refigured it. It's not difficult. Other people have refigured it and done a fine job as well. It's not difficult. It's called a tournament. When my daughter was, my daughter played high school baseball up until her senior year. She, and including her senior year, is my point, that she played at a high level and played in a couple state championship games. And she played from the time she was in Little League baseball, 5 or 6 years old. What do you think they did, Navy Thomas, at the end of every baseball or softball season? They played a tournament. So if the local park and rec league can get it right, then the NCAA should be able to get it right, and college football should be able to get it right. You play a tournament. It's simple. It's sports. All right, sir. We've got a couple other calls coming in. Yeah.
My only other question that you just brought up was softball, which is the women. Where is the CWS for the softball? Isn't that down in southwest of the United States?
Navy. Are you going to drive me into the ground? There's not going to be anybody watching this if we start talking about women's softball. So
no,
I believe in Oklahoma. I believe the College World Series for women is in Oklahoma City. I believe.
I'm just the first one to get my words in, and then you can take everything back over like you always do. So
okay, we're good with it. We're going to get back to college football here. Navy Thomas, you are always welcome. I appreciate it, sir. You're always a great supporter, and I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, my friend. Thanks to you and to all the fans.
All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Let's see who's next on the line.
We'll start at the beep.
At the beep. There we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? It's DeAndre.
Oh, DeAndre.
How you doing? The last call was talking about baseball.
We talked about baseball. We talked about softball. We talked about basketball. We talked about everything but college football. But that's Navy Thomas. He's been supporting me forever, almost since day one. So I'm going to let that go. DeAndre, do you realize that I posted a video almost especially just for you this week?
What was that one?
Oh, you got to check it out. So go back about 4 or 5 videos, I would guess, at this point. And it says something.
Like you
No. This is. Let me look at it. It is titled. Damn Near Perfect, my 2018 college football playoff predictions by request. You wanted to see what my college football playoff predictions were before the season started last year, and I dug it out and I clipped it off and posted it. It's only 3 minutes long, but I go through everything in terms of my conference championships and my college football playoff teams because you doubted my selection of Clemson as the national champion.
Wow.
It's right there.
Like I said, you're a smart man, so yeah, you picked the right team.
Once in a while.
That was a good saw, and I'm not gonna keep you long. But I saw Pisky and Pete talking. What's Clemson all time on the win list? All time.
I could take a guess at it. I don't know that off the top of my head. So my guess is going to be Clemson top on the all-time list. I would guess that Clemson would be somewhere around, I'm going to say 14.
14.
I'll look it up while we're on.
I listen to a lot of people talk about Clemson has been winning. I know. I put a lot of national championships, and I admit that a lot of y'all don't, because it's always been biased. So we really don't know. Who will win on a national stage, and social factors that we all talked about before. But I was just wondering where Clemson was on the all-time national. But I was telling somebody, I don't think in the 70s Clemson was good. But I know people say, the 90s, the 80s and 90s, which I mainly saw outside of, the 2000s and our current time. I don't get why people were so down in the 90s. I'm not saying Clemson was legit, but they did have some good defensive players. Trevor Price, Brian Davis, Brian Dawkins, a couple other guys I just can't remember off the top of my head. And also, I was looking at people say, what's the guy? He likes Miami football a lot. It's not Zoe or the. I think it's like NDVTV. He was saying Clemson didn't have top 5 recruiting classes. I think it's Daquan Byers. I want to say Clemson had a top 10 top 5 recruiting class with him.
Maybe one.
And,
they've been in that 7 or 8 range most of those years.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean in the aftermath, if we re-ranked the classes, that they wouldn't have the number 1 or 2 class, because obviously they performed on the field better than the 7th or 8th ranking, but they still had extremely. When you're talking, are you number 4? You're number 7? What's the difference? We're going to find out on the field. DeAndre, I've got your answer for you. I've got your answer. So what did I say Clemson was?
14.
I was off by 2 spots. They are 16th. They are 16th at 744. Actually, 15th. I'll give myself a little bit more credit. They're tied for 15th with Virginia Tech, so you're going to take them over this year at 744. Michigan is still number 1, Ohio State number 2, Texas 3, Alabama 4, and Nebraska 5.
Right. Well, I think people. Well, college football, if you look at what Miami and Clemson, you admitted in the 80s, maybe Miami and Clemson was on I'm not going to say the same level, because Miami had more national championships, but they were doing about the same thing around the same time period. And Clemson, I know they only played with 11 games, so Clemson would go 9-2, but win a bowl game and be like 10-2. So, and they were playing Georgia and Florida State and, good schools like that. So I don't know why Clemson doesn't get that much respect for what they did and they passed. Now, the 70s, I don't think Clemson was very good. I think they had their hits and miss. In the 70s, I think Carolina and Duke were probably better programs in the 70s, but
Duke?
I don't worry about the 60s because,
Duke?
Carolina and Duke.
Duke in football?
Duke and Maryland real good at,
No.
I think Duke won.
No.
They won't good.
Duke.
Okay,
Steve Spurrier won an ACC championship at Duke, which
89.
was in '89. Okay, Duke had not won a bowl game. They just won a bowl game a couple of years ago against Indiana. That was their first bowl win since 1961.
Right, but Carolina and Maryland was really good at that time,
yes,
though, right?
Yes, especially Carolina.
Yeah. But I just say that I don't think people give Clemson a lot of respect, because they don't go back and look at the 60s and 50s and 40s. And like Clemson was going to the Sugar Bowl and the Cotton Bowl and I didn't win like 2 or 3 Orange Bowls before '81.
So DeAndre, what years are you thinking Clemson was really good? What years are you talking about? You're talking about the 80s and 90s, right?
Yeah, 80s and 90s.
So you want to hear
I think quarterback play was terrible, and they did Ken Hatfield and Tommy West. And,
oh yeah.
I get more credit. Now, Bowden did update the program a lot that, Dabo took over. I don't think a lot of people give Bowden the credit that he should get. I mean, because I know Dabo was doing a lot of the recruiting, but Tommy Bowden did put a lot of that talent on the field, though, too.
Okay. Do you want to hear
beating Florida State?
Do you want to hear your records post national championship in 1981?
Right. Go ahead.
9-1-1, 9-1-1.
Yeah. Then Boston College and Maryland, right?
That's who beat them.
Yeah, Boston College tied them.
Yeah. So 1982.
Maryland beat them and tied them 1 year.
1982, they lost to Georgia and they tied Boston College.
Right, okay.
1983, they lost to Boston College and they tied Georgia. Flip-flopped them.
Right, okay.
1984, 7-4, 6-6.
That's when Maryland started taking off. Right.
Yeah, boomer. Yes, 1985, 6-6.
And it was on probation those years too, right?
Clemson, yeah, they had a couple probation years. They didn't play in bowl games in those 9-1-1 seasons. So 9-1-1, 9-1-1, 7-4, 6-6, 8-2-2, 10-2, 10-2, 10-2, 10-2, 9-2-1, 5-6, 9-3, 5-6, 8-4, 7-5, 7-5, 3-8, and 6-6 takes us through 1999.
And those are Tommy West years, right?
Yeah, they started to bottom out, but a lot of 10-2s, 9-1s, that area for a long time.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just saying, I think the program was better than what people give it more respect for. I mean, I think till Vince Young got there, Texas went about 25 years without winning a championship.
Yeah, but they were an elite team though. But yeah, they were not good from about 1991 or 2 until Mac Brown kicked it in. For about 10 years, they weren't very good in the 90s.
Right.
I
didn't think of that point.
The only game that I've ever attended of Clemson was where I covered the game was at the Peach Bowl against Mississippi State in 1999. That was my one Clemson experience. Lost to Mississippi State. I was covering the SEC at the time.
Right. I think the guy Slocum was the coach at A&M at the time, right?
They played Mississippi State. Jackie Sherrill.
Okay. Yeah. But I'm gonna let you go. But what you think about Clemson recruiting class, Mark? To get no one player in the country at the time, he's the number one player in the country.
Well,
that's what publication you read.
Why wouldn't anyone want to play there that has their choice of playing anywhere? It's a fun place to play. The coach is he's not just credible and knows what he's doing, but he's fun. He's a leader of men. And it's a great place to play. Great location. The fan base is raucous, and they are the best program in the country right now.
You know what, Mark? And I'm not knocking Sweetie. We all know that head coaches, football coaches on the college level, they are more of figureheads than they are actual coaches, and that's what makes him great. Is that he's a good figurehead, and he's a teacher, like you just said. He's teaching young men, but he did a great job of delegating his responsibilities to other people.
Well, DeAndre, I don't want to misuse the term figurehead. So when you say CEO or delegator, you're spot on. As somebody who's still in charge of the deal, still in charge of the program, and plays the CEO role very well, and they know how to choose talent and select assignments and delegate. A figurehead is basically somebody that was just placed in power, but they really have no power. They're just there to talk, and they really don't know what's going on.
Right. Well, Mark, I'll let you listen to the show, man. I'll let other people call in.
All right, thank you, DeAndre. Have a good night.
All right. You too.
My man, DeAndre. I hated to be a stickler there, but I just wanted to point out the difference between a figurehead and a CEO. All right. Who's calling in? I don't really need to talk about anything tonight or come up with any kind of subjects. Unfortunately, let's see if we got it.
The call will start at the
Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's MCD Sports 4.
Oh, boy. Here he is. What's going on?
The reason why I'm calling is because you told me call into the show about the comment I left on the
All right. I'm going to have to.
conference.
I'm going to have to find it. So give me a second, and you can certainly talk about whatever you'd like to talk about in the meantime.
I do think that Ohio State is overrated.
Okay. So you think this particular team, or you're talking about overall or all time or what?
The team this upcoming season.
Oh, 2019. So
Yeah.
I believe Ohio State's probably going to be ranked somewhere between 5 and 10 to start the season. You think that's too high?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think Ohio State, I think the defense is overrated. I don't think the linebacking core is that good. I think if Kyle Murray, I don't like using spring games, but Kyle Murray in a real game, in a regular season game, all I've seen him do is hand off the ball when he played at Georgia.
Justin
So I
Fields?
have question
Sure.
marks there. I do think you have great wide receivers. I do think that that's probably your strongest suit. And also you have a first-year head coach in Ryan Day. So that's where I'm at with Ohio State.
So when you say overrated, what are they going to go, 5 and 7?
No.
Oh,
They're
okay.
definitely making a bowl game. I think they're going to lose at least 2 games this year.
Okay. 9 and 3, something in that range. Okay. Yeah, I could see it. They have to play. They've got a pretty difficult assignment in the Western Division. They've got Nebraska, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. Maybe the 3 best teams in the other division.
I will say this, though, about Ohio State. I do think they'll beat Michigan this year. I will say that.
So who's going to win that division if they're going to go 9 and 3 or 10 and 2?
Penn State.
Penn State's going to win the division.
Or Maryland. Penn State or Maryland.
Or Maryland.
That division.
Maryland's going to
Maryland.
win that division.
One of those two. To me, Penn State's the best team in the Big Ten East. But I'm telling you, Maryland, watch out for that offense. Just watch out.
Okay.
It's going to be the fastest paced offense in the league.
You know you're slightly biased.
I know I'm slightly biased. I'll give you that. But I'm telling you, we put up 50 plus on Ohio State last year.
Yes, you did.
And in Ohio State, they let Purdue. I was getting Iowa and Purdue mixed up. Purdue put, I think, 48 on them. And don't forget, I know you all blew out Michigan. You did give up 37 to Michigan, and
39, sure.
Not good.
Okay, well,
So-
listen. You also, when you start to recite scores, you've got to put the context of the style of play and the game in hand as well. I don't know that Ohio State would have given up 39 points had they not had the lead that they had that entire second half. They were up by about a touchdown or 8 points, something like that at halftime. Then they blew them out like the first 5 or 6 minutes of the third quarter. And it was just kind of one of those. There were a lot of lazy touchdowns late in that game.
I know, but I think they were ranked a top 5 defense, Ohio State. No way they were a top 5 defense last year.
Last year? No. Who was ranking them as a top 5 defense last year? Maybe top 5 in the division. No, that was an awful defense. They had a lot of talent.
Oh, I got it mixed up with Michigan's defense.
Yes.
Never mind. I got it mixed up with Michigan.
Yes.
Michigan's defense is overrated as well.
Yes.
I think they're overrated as well. I think the offense ain't good, and I think the defense. I mean, they gave up 41 points to that guy down Florida, Filippo Franks, the guy that people refer to as the human garbage can or whatever. Or the
Well,
human trash.
let's understand that 3 or 4 of Michigan's top defensive players didn't play that game. Rashawn Gary didn't play in that game. Devin Bush didn't play in that game. One of their two corners didn't play in that game. One of their best safeties, I don't think Josh Metellus, or one of their safeties didn't play in that game. Credit Florida with the win. The teams that show up and have the healthy players and the players who decide to show up at the bowl game should deserve and earn the win and be credited with the win. But you also have to, again, understand who's there and who's not there. And Michigan didn't have its best defensive players outside of Chase Winovich, and also didn't have Karan Higdon, their 1,000-yard back, at the game.
Remember, they also gave up 62 to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they did have all the good players. So
sure.
In Indiana, Rutgers, I mean, Indiana's okay. I don't expect much from them this year. They might make a bowl game. But Rutgers, let's just say Rutgers. I mean, if any team in the Big Ten loses to Rutgers, outside maybe Illinois, I don't even know them to play each other on this year. I mean, that would not be good. But that's where I'm at right now in the Big Ten East. I have Penn State winning it. Maryland will probably be in second or third in the Big Ten East.
Neither Ohio State or Michigan is going to finish in the top two in the division. Sure. That would be interesting.
I think Ohio State. I will probably give the edge to Ohio State over Michigan.
Okay, Michigan's going to finish fourth in the division. Okay,
I do think so. I think Michigan's at least losing 3 games this year, possibly even 4 or 5.
If you saw my video on the college football playoff predictor, it gives Michigan the best chance of any team to win the Big Ten and go to the college football playoff.
The ESPN one?
I believe that's where that came from.
Yeah, Mark, I don't look at that. I mean,
I'm right there with you. So I'm not advocating it. I'm just stating those are the numbers that came out concerning the Big Ten.
I mean, like, I know you work for ESPN, but I mean,
yeah, I got to bite my tongue on that one. But yeah. So,
why do you think there's a thought, or like my argument is kind of dead about the 1-1-1?
Okay, so I'm looking at it right now, and so just to let everyone know, this is concerning my non-conference scheduling proposal, which would mean that every team in FBS football would play 9 conference games, therefore 3 non-conference games, and that they should be able to choose like a group of 5 or an FCS. But my focus was on the 2 mandated games that would be Power 5 games. So every team in the Power 5 would play 2 non-conference Power 5 opponents, and those 2 opponents would have a 500 composite record from the previous season. You got to watch the video. I'm not going to explain anymore, but it makes total sense. Then we would implement a committee that would be regimented to that system. So they wouldn't be able to do whatever they want. They have to hit the numbers, but they would be able to ensure better matchups, and they would be able to ensure that if there were teams that finish, let's say my example was Michigan State 2 years ago, finished 3-9 in the overall and 1-8 in the Big Ten, but there was conventional wisdom that Michigan State was not going to continue on that path. The metrics would still have to line up. The committee would still have to go with the 500 composite record, but they could match up Michigan State with a team that was expected to drop off of a 1-loss conference season the year before to kind of balance it out. All right, so let's get to your comment. I agree with some of the things here, Mark. I agree with scheduling 14 years out is ridiculous. I also agree in having May 1st being the schedule release date as well. I do disagree with the rivals, though. I don't believe in playing out of conference rivals every year. I believe each team should get 1 Power 5 team, 1 Group of 5, and 1 FCS opponent every year. I do agree, however, with a balance out of conference schedule. Okay, this is where we may have an issue. So your example is Alabama plays a top 10 team out of conference every year, then plays someone like a UCF or Boise State in the group of 5. Now, how would if Alabama has to play a top 10 team from the previous season, and they're only playing one Power 5. Since they're playing one of the best teams in the country, why would you make their schedule even more difficult by playing one of the best group of 5 teams? How would their schedule be balanced and equitable versus everybody in the SEC, let alone everyone else in the country?
Well, obviously, like teams like Georgia and LSU will also be getting like that same similar schedule since they finished in the top 10. I mean, like if you look at the talent,
so you're
level,
creating
I mean,
an NFL type of schedule. You're trying to create parity, and you're giving tougher schedules to better teams or what are expected to be better teams. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to create fair scheduling because we have to evaluate everybody fairly to determine who has the best resume to get to the college football playoff. We've been placed in this ridiculous scenario where we're judging teams that have no correlation. There is no overlap of scheduling. There is no way to judge these and evaluate these teams against each other. But that's what we're tasked to do, or the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. At least I would provide a schedule in which they would be able to say, oh, well, they played those 2 Power 5s. They played those 2 Power 5s. But we wouldn't weight the schedule to make it tougher. That doesn't make any sense to me. Just because a team's good or expected to be good, why should they have to play the best teams in the country? And then you're saying that Tennessee would play a couple crap teams. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did format like an NFL schedule. Talent levels, I'm like Tennessee. I think we can all agree. I know I saw that ESPN had Tennessee has a 2% chance of making the college football playoffs. That's a laughing stock right there, and another argument for another day. But Tennessee, we all know they're going to be like a 6-16. Let's put them up against,
how do we know that? In my system, we're not trying to project who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. That is not the job of scheduling, is to try to figure out who's going to be good and to be forecasters and have crystal balls. No, create a fair schedule. It doesn't matter. So in my scheduling, I shouldn't even put, this is who Alabama's going to play. This is who Auburn's going to play. This is who LSU is going to play. It should just be Team A, Team B, Team C, Team D, etc. in the SEC or in any conference, because it shouldn't matter.
Do you think, for example, who would Alabama play in your schedule scenario?
They could play anybody.
Anybody? Any Power 5 team?
They have to play 2. Therefore, pick a team. Pick any team in the country that Alabama has to play. Just pick a team. Just pick a team. What team do you want them to play?
I'm going to pick 2 teams.
No. You can't pick 2 teams, because I'm telling you what my system is. Pick one team that you want Alabama to play next year.
That one to play? USC.
Okay, they play
USC.
Okay, they're going to play USC. USC went 4-5 in the Pac-12. Therefore, we need to find a team that went 5-4 last year in conference, so we can make Alabama's schedule, just like everybody else in the country, a 500 composite schedule. That's how it works.
Okay.
That's how my.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
So they play USC. USC went. They went 4-5 last year. Michigan State went 5-4. There's Alabama's schedule. Bam. Give me another team. Yeah, give me Auburn.
Maryland.
Maryland. Who do you want Maryland to play?
I want Maryland to play Missouri.
Okay, Missouri, I believe, went 4-4 last year, and the numbers aren't going to be exact because there are 8 and 9 game seasons, so that would walk. That, of course,
make it across the board 9 games.
Yeah, so it's not going to be an issue under your system or my system. But Maryland, you're going to have them play Missouri, who went 4-4. Okay, they can play Miami as well. They went 4-4 last year as well. There's their schedule.
I would love that. But how about
simple?
I have a few questions,
and it's all fair.
I know. No. I have a few questions, not regarding that, but who will be the third team? Will it just be like an FCS opponent that they'll play?
Well, we've got to get the group of 5 involved. So this
Correct.
is where my scheduling committee comes into play. So you do make a good point in that there has to be some level of projection. And my classic example again is Michigan State 2 years ago, coming off a 3-9, 1-8 season in the Big Ten. And if you had a committee that had brains, they would say, well, Michigan State, we know that they're not that bad and aren't going to repeat that. Therefore, when we select the group of 5, we're going to weight that down. We're going to give this team that has to play Michigan State, because we expect them to be much better, we'll weight them down with an easy group of 5.
So in the group of 5 teams, we'll play 2 group of 5 teams as well out conference in your scenario.
Well, I think just like the as everyone would agree, there's an overlap between quality at the top of the rung group of 5 teams overlapping the bottom of the Power 5. It's the same thing with the FCS and the group of 5. So we would have to review the group of 5 and the FCS, and the very top FCS teams would also play into that as well.
Okay. I mean, you changed my mind on the whole thing. I'll give you that about the even schedule. But I am a bit concerned about that third out conference game still. That's the only thing.
Okay.
So, like, I believe every team deserves an FCS opponent. One FCS opponent. I believe every team has the right to have that. But with 2, to make it even, let me put this scenario in front of you. Alabama and Arizona, they both have 6-3 conference records. Do you just put them 2 up against each other and then find a group of 5 team that also has a 6-3 conference record? Like Tulsa has a 6-3 conference record. Do you just do that?
Wait a minute. What's your example?
Arizona and Alabama, they both have 6-3 conference records.
Okay.
Then Alabama and Tulsa, they both have 6-3 conference records.
Tulsa's in the group of 5.
Yeah, but for the 1-1-1 scenario, do you just make Tulsa and Alabama play?
You do whatever you want. That's your scenario. I'm not going with the 1-1-1. We need to play 2 Power 5 games. That's the only way we can make an equitable schedule. You can't make an equitable schedule if you only have 1 Power 5 game. Then every team that has to play Alabama or Ohio State or Oklahoma is their 1 Power 5 game. They have a huge disadvantage against the team in their same conference that gets to play Kansas State or Oregon State or Wake Forest.
Okay. I mean, you definitely changed my mind, but I believe if you do it like that, you only have 8 conference games. You do 2 Power 5, a group of 5, and then the cupcake game, obviously.
You know what I need to what I need to pull out here is I need to go grab my restructuring of college football that I did a few years ago with 6 conferences and 12 teams per conference, 72 teams. Therefore, what happens is that you eliminate this issue with having 14 teams and only 8 conference games. Yeah. All right, MCD Force, I appreciate the call. We got somebody else calling in here.
Yeah. Okay, have a good one.
Press 1 to start. The call will start at the beep.
All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Yo, it's Deep Barat. How's it going, Mark?
It's going just fine. How are you?
Lovely. So obviously you've heard a lot of things that are happening right now with Ohio State, but how do you personally feel about all of these quarterbacks transferring out of Ohio State now that Justin Fields is the number 1 guy?
How do I feel about it as a fan? Well, it's not a good thing because quarterbacks get injured. And so if you lose your second and third stringers, now you have a guy that's going to have to play as a 4th stringer. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. But as a 4th stringer who would know otherwise had not played. It's a pretty obvious deduction that it's the team's much weaker. Well, put it this way. As long as Justin Fields stays healthy, the team is just as strong because the backup quarterback's not going to play unless it's 50-0. But as soon as Justin Fields gets hurt, then the team's much weaker because they've got a fourth-string quarterback playing. Imagine Ohio State in 2014 not having Cardell Jones or JT Barrett to back up Braxton Miller. Imagine 2014 if Braxton Miller is the starting quarterback, JT Barrett's the backup, and Cardell Jones is the third string, and both of them had transferred. They would not be the national champions. Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Is like, was Matthew Baldwin that good of a quarterback? I mean, you know, I know that it sucks to lose him, but I mean, he really wasn't rated that high of a.
Oh well, do you want to start through quarterbacks who weren't rated highly coming out of high school? I know that Urban Meyer made the comment about Matthew Baldwin that when Ryan Day saw him when he went to go see his high school game and watched him on tape as well, broke up a meeting preparing for a Penn State game that was critical to the conference race and said, you need to see this guy play. I am interrupting this meeting. And Urban Meyer's like, are you crazy? And he's like, watch this kid. They were pretty high on Matthew Baldwin.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that he has potential. And the thing is that he just put his name in the transfer portal. I mean, he hasn't formally left Ohio State.
Absolutely.
And is still on the roster. And chances are, probably not going to go anywhere unless he finds a starting job or a place where he thinks he would get a starting job. That's the only reason why he's leaving in the beginning. Which brings up to another point, which is that Matthew Baldwin is still going to be a number 2 quarterback at Ohio State next year, assuming that he does not leave, like formally leave. I mean, a lot of people put their name in the transfer portal, but they don't necessarily transfer in the end. And it's the same thing that happened at Texas this year. We had 3 quarterbacks after Ellinger won the starting job. Quarterbacks, Casey Thompson, Cameron Rising, and what is the other guy? Shane Buechele. All 3 of them were going to leave and transfer. 2 of them did. Casey Thompson decided to stay in the end after putting his name in the transfer portal. So it's not the end of the world yet, but if Justin Fields does go down, it would probably be the end of the season for Ohio State, which brings up another point. I heavily disagree with everything that MCD Sports said, previous callers said about Ohio State in this upcoming season. I do not believe that Ohio State is anything less than the Big Ten winner next season. I think that they could finish number 2 if some magical thing happens, but there's no empirical proof that Michigan can beat Ohio State. At least, for the vast majority of this decade. 7, 8 years now running. Like, until we get some kind of hardcore proof that Michigan is turning the tables and that, sorry, I don't like to use the word Michigan. I want to use Michigan is turning the tables. There's no way that we can empirically say that Ohio State is not the on-field favorite to win the Big Ten.
You're a Texas guy. What do you care?
Why do I care?
Yeah.
Well,
why are you using, not that you don't care. I don't care if anybody gets on here and represents themselves as any kind of fan and wants to talk about other teams. I'm not one of these kind of hosts that I've heard in other areas in which they're like, oh, why are you talking about the Yankees? You're a Mets fan. Shut up. No, that's not what I mean. I'm just wondering why you care and take a slight at Michigan being a Texas fan.
Yeah, so briefly in this year, I think it was week 7, Texas was projected to be, at that time in the season, considered one of the potential playoff teams, and Michigan was ranked 1 spot ahead in the AP poll of Texas. And Michigan fans were all over Twitter and all over my Twitter when I think I ranked Texas number 4 and Michigan number 5 for that 1 week. And Texas actually beat Oklahoma, which was like a top 4 team in the end, but top 10 matchup at that time. And a bunch of annoying Michigan fans just pestered me saying how much better Michigan was than Texas, and how much, like, Michigan is a better, richer program than Texas. And I could only imagine how bad it would be being an Ohio State fan trying to deal with these Michigan scrubs. But they really pissed me off. And so by that nature and de facto, I respect Ohio State fans a lot more. I know a lot of people give them a lot of shit for doing a lot of things like taking people's car bumpers off and, a whole list of myriad of things that they do during game day. But I still respect them a hell of a lot more than Michigan fans.
Deeper
especially after that 1 week.
Can we really say decidedly who was the better team last year between Michigan and Texas? It's pretty much of a toss-up.
That's the problem with college football, is that every week is a toss-up, right? I mean, even Clemson, right? They did go 15-0. But if you look at who they played to get to 15-0 until the college football playoffs, they didn't play anybody. Now, I'm not saying that Ohio State could have beaten Clemson next year or blah, 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 but that's why it's called, AP polls and these committees deciding who's a better team and who's not, and why we have these shows and debate about blah, blah, blah. Reality is that I think Michigan was the number 2 team in the Big Ten last year, but I don't think that, to be honest, they've proven anything on paper whatsoever to have them deserve to be the Big Ten favorite this year. Because that's what's been happening, right? Every single year, and you've been a college football fan for longer than I've been born, and you've obviously been an Ohio State fan. I don't know how you deal with these scrubs ranking Michigan ahead of Ohio State every year, when the reality is that Ohio State beats Michigan every single year. And it was not just under Urban Meyer. I mean, Jim Tressel had just as good of a run, during his heyday.
Sure, 9-1. Yep.
Right, exactly. So it's not like it's going away anytime soon. And a lot of people say that Ryan Day is not this great of a coach and he hasn't proven anything yet. The reality is that Ryan Day was the starting head coach of Ohio State for, I believe, 4 games last year.
3.
And on top of that, 3 games. But on top of that, he's been under the system of Urban Meyer for at least a couple of years now. So he knows how the system and the program is run, how the recruiting is run, how the structure of things are run. And I think that Ryan Day is pretty much an equivalent hire to the likes of like a Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma, right? A lot of people projected Oklahoma to kind of, not continue the run they had under Stoops. The reality is that Oklahoma has been just as good of a program after Stoops under Riley, despite Riley being 33 when he took over the job. So I don't think Ryan Day is going to make Ohio State into an unknown program or a poor program next year. And they have a better quarterback. I know that you're probably a big Dwayne Haskins fan and you want the best for Dwayne Haskins in the NFL. The reality is that as an athlete and those things that have been proven by the actual rankings out of high school, Justin Fields is one of the all-time prospects. He's not the number 1 quarterback prospect of all time, but there's a reason his quarterback ranking is like 0.99998. The only one higher than him was Trevor Lawrence, which was, obviously you've seen the results, right, on the field. But he was like 0.9999, so it was like 0.0001 of a difference. But the reality is, my friend, Ohio State is the de facto favorite, and I have to correct MCD Sports and all of those Michigan fans and everybody. There's no way on earth that any preseason polls would have Michigan ahead of Ohio State.
Well,
I don't care if the game is in the Big House. I don't care about the Big House, period, because Ohio State's been winning there for several years now. It is what. And Penn State, who the hell has Penn State winning the Big Ten? I mean, I'm sorry.
MCD4 has Maryland ahead of Ohio State.
I mean, Maryland went 5-7 last year. I mean, I get it, right? They had one upset win over Texas, and he's still bothering me about it.
They almost beat Ohio State
every single day. And they almost beat Ohio State in this 2-point. But you could say that Oklahoma State almost beat Oklahoma because of that 1-point, 2-point conversion.
Oh, we could go on and on and on.
We can go forever. This is like a circular conversation.
Sure.
There's no way that a 5-7 Maryland team, I don't care if you take the drunkest, most like obnoxious analyst in college football and you put him on this show and you say that Maryland is, I don't think he would even say that. I mean, I understand the guy's a Maryland fan, right? But there's nobody on planet Earth, and I mean planet Earth. Maybe in some other galaxy far, far away, there might be like some Maryland Terp fan that says that they're going to win the Big Ten. There's no drunk person on planet Earth, even like mentally insane person, who has Maryland winning the Big Ten next year.
Well, Deeper Rod, I guess before I do my predictions on here, the last week of August, maybe I'll, get liquored up and we'll see what comes out of my mouth. And maybe I'll have Maryland going to the Big Ten championship game against, I don't know, Illinois.
Oh man. And you should like try to make it public too. But then again, I mean, you do. And look, no disrespect to ESPN. I think they also sponsor the Longhorn Network. But dude, like ESPN, man, they've had some really obnoxious like playoff predictions. Like I think they had Washington, who was like a 3-loss team at that time, ahead of. I mean, ultimately they were ahead of Washington State, but they gave them a higher chance to get to the college football playoff. Like their college football playoff predictor is on drugs, I think, or some kind of poorly programmed methodology that screws over the predictions. Realistically, I mean, we all know that it's going to come down to Ohio State and Michigan, probably last game. I mean, Penn State is a good program, but they don't have a quarterback.
All right, Deeper Rod. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we really need to, for a number of reasons, I need to move on. Thanks for the call, man.
Okay,
I will talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
So a number of things going on here. Number one, I let these calls go on way too long. So Deeper Rod was on for 13 minutes, and not that I didn't have other callers on forever as well. So I don't know how to necessarily take care of that. I've got another call coming in. Please be patient, and this is the reason why. So I've got an appointment with Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football, talking Oklahoma. Since we've got the live stream fired up with about 40 people on the line, hey, why not? I'll just keep it going. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to be sending this link to Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football. I'm going to bring him on to talk Oklahoma instead of shutting down as I had previously planned, and then coming back at 8:30 to talk to Cam Underwood from State of the U on Miami. So that's one of the reasons we need to shut down. MCD4 Sports 4, whatever your name is, MCD4 Sports, wherever the 4 is, we love you. We love you. Love the conversation. And you know what, MCD4? If Maryland wins the Big Ten East or even finishes ahead of Ohio State and or Michigan, the laugh will be on me. It will be on Deeper Rod. It will be your world. The world will be your playground to just laugh and frolic and tell us whatever in the hell you want us to tell, to say about our stupidity when it comes to college football. I will be waiting to see that. I'll make one other thing clear, as a number of people are calling me. We'll make something else clear, that when Deeper Rod mentions that I must be a Dwayne Haskins fan, I've been watching college football for so long. You know, I was a Chris Carter fan, a Chris Spielman fan, an Art Schlechter fan, but I was like 14 years old. Right now, I can't name the last player on a college football team that I would say, oh, I was a fan of. You know, that might have been 30 years ago. I'm not a fan of anybody. Am I a fan of Dwayne Haskins? Nothing against Dwayne Haskins. I don't care about Dwayne Haskins. I'm not a fan of Dwayne Haskins. Not a fan of Tate Martell. Not a fan of fill in the blank. Justin Fields. Do I care about Justin Fields? I want him to play well. Yeah, that's long since passed me by. I'm an Ohio State fan. In terms of any particular attachment to players on the field, it just doesn't exist and hasn't for years and years and years and years and years. All right, this link is going out to Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football. We're going to bring him on to talk Oklahoma. Certainly stay on the live chat so we can keep this going. All right. And yeah, I'm going to set this up better. That day is coming soon. And yeah, I got to squint. And let's find Jason. right with me here. Is it doing that? I don't know. It's going to foul up. They reconfigured Twitter today. It's like got a completely different look for me. That's weird. It's very odd. Huh. Sure did. So I apologize. This is very unprofessional of me. But at the same time, if you guys want me to keep the live chat going, this is what I have to do. So no more calls unless you want to call and talk for about 2.5 minutes before Jason Ray comes on the line, because I have just sent him the link, and we'll continue with some Oklahoma talk coming up. Oklahoma, I am lost on what happened this spring. I didn't follow anything, read anything, watch the game, nothing on Oklahoma. So certainly if you guys have any Oklahoma comments or questions for Jason Ray, send them our way. Meanwhile, I'm going to brush up on some Oklahoma talk. Vernon Speaks Sports, Auburn. Man, this guy knows what he's talking about, does a great job. So please check out Vernon Speaks Sports, Auburn. Check out that YouTube channel. It's Vernon Speaks Sports, all one word. Vernon Speaks Sports is one word. Auburn. Check him out on YouTube. He does a tremendous job and has supplied us with some great content here, not just in regards to our conversations, but he has posted some videos here. And it's been a tremendous addition to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And Vernon, we thank you so much for the contribution. I would like to get on my soapbox to encourage others to do the same. But we want to talk some Oklahoma football. We got Jason Ray on the line from Last Word on College Football. Jason, how you doing today? Jason, we can't hear you.
Hey, good afternoon, Mark. How's it going?
In the next few seconds, if you have any issues there, Jason, you may want to either look at your settings or you can click out and come back in. Hey, Jason, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Jason, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? There we go. So yeah, if you just click out or check your settings, and hopefully, unless it's me, which I don't believe it's me, maybe I need to check my settings. My apologies, because it's typically not me. Jason, you there? No.
How about now?
Whoa, there you are.
You hear me now?
So I think that was a combination of both of us. So my apologies there.
Sorry about that.
No. It's all good. We'll figure it out.
Good.
Once I have my entire staff of technicians and all sorts of people working on these things, we'll be all set to go. I can actually have some research and things that I'm working on rather than worrying about if somebody's mic is working. Jason, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. How about yourself, Mark?
Oh, I'm doing great. Been taking all sorts of crazy phone calls from these college football fans that are in typical form for April. How's that Oklahoma football team looking?
Yeah, they look pretty good. They they had their scrimmage, their spring game. I guess it was about a week and a half ago. So it was kind of interesting how the spring game played out. They had it scheduled for Saturday. April 13th, I believe, was the date. That was the original schedule, but there was some weather. There was some pending weather, and it was actually scheduled to rain all day Saturday. So Lincoln Riley made a quick shift. I believe it was on Wednesday afternoon, and he moved the game to Friday night. So I think a lot of people was thinking it was going to hurt the attendance. With spring games are so important from a recruiting standpoint anymore. I think last year was the first year that they could you could have an official visit from a recruiting perspective during the spring game. So over the last couple of years, they've become more popular, and I think there was some concern that the attendance might take a hit. But it didn't actually. They had about the same turnout. I think they had a little bit over 50,000 folks that showed up on a Friday night for the spring game. So it was good. I think kind of all indications. I think all the eyes were on Jalen Hurts as he made his official Oklahoma debut, looked. I think he looked a lot sharper than a lot of people would have thought coming in. I think there might have been some rust. Hurts kind of getting used to the, only being out on campus for a few short weeks. He looked pretty good. I think it was about 11 out of 14 for about 174 yards. He had one touchdown. No turnovers. He managed the team really well. Had a couple of scrambles where he made some really good throws on the run. He looked like a guy that had been under Riley's tutelage for a while. He looked different. I think he had there was kind of it's a little bit of coach speak. I think Riley last year said it was kind of neck and neck between Austin Kendall and Kyler Murray, and I think we certainly know how that turned out. So really, there was a lot of coach speak, and I think after the game, I mean, Riley even mentioned that, hey, it may be one of those situations where I make a call a little sooner than later, because it was very apparent that Hurts was the guy. He was the number one guy. Austin Kendall, with his transfer to West Virginia, left a spot open. Right now Tanner Mordecai is the backup. He looked young. On Friday, you could tell, maybe a little bit of nerves. I think he was about 12. I know he completed 50% of his passes. He did throw an interception. He looked a bit like he was forcing the ball downfield. You could tell the difference, Mark, between Hurts and Mordecai. Hurts looked like a guy that had been there before, had been a college football quarterback for, been in the system, obviously in Alabama for the 4 years, and then this being his last year. Mordecai not really saw the field. He was Kyler Murray's backup last year. He saw kind of some spot action, in garbage time last year. But I think the most interesting thing to look at from a quarterback perspective this fall will be, what does the backup look like? I think all indications are, unless an injury, it's going to be Hurts' job. What does Spencer Rattler is coming in the summer. The number one quarterback in the country. He's probably not scheduled to get on campus till probably around June. So I think that'll be interesting to see how Mordecai if he can hold him off, or is Rattler that good that he can come in and steal that backup job immediately? And if he does, the all kind of important question now is, and what kind of goes into the forefront of our minds, is the transfer portal, right? I mean, how long do these kids want to wait? Do they want to wait their turn? If they see, like in Mordecai's situation, if he sees that Rattler's already making that move, does he think, if he's already ahead of me right now, do I make the decision now? Do I wait it out until spring ball next year? So I think that'll be one of the most interesting things to look at as we kind of progress through spring and the fall.
What I think has to be considered, though, is sheer mathematics when you look at the totality of college football. So take the FBS. We've got, I believe, 68 teams when you include the 5 conferences plus the major independents. So there's only so many quarterback spots. There are 68 spots. Of course, there are group of 5 programs that are more prominent, let's say a UCF or a Boise State, than some of the lower end Power 5 programs, and certainly the independents that have latched on to that moniker, like New Mexico State or Liberty. But my point being, there are the same number of quarterback spots regardless, both starting and total on the roster. So while players are leaving to look for a better opportunity, all in all, there are the same number of positions. So you're still going to, unless you find an ideal spot where you see an opportunity where there's not much talent or experience and a particular player seizes that opportunity to land that job, for the most part, you're going to run into pretty steep competition regardless. We have the same number of players filling the same number of roster spots in totality. So anyway, back to the matter at hand with Oklahoma. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis right here. Want to let you guys know that if you grab the Amazon link in the description section below, or in the description section of any of the videos. Use that link to shop on Amazon. You are helping the channel. You're not costing yourself a penny. You are helping the channel do your Amazon shopping that way. We're on all the audio platforms as well. And of course, Patreon as well. We got Jason Ray on the line from Last Word on College Football. So while it's intriguing to you who's going to win the backup quarterback position or how well Mordecai is going to play, obviously he becomes the most important player on the team if Hurts gets injured, hurt. But as long as that doesn't happen, he's the least important guy in the field on the roster. Don't need him for special teams. Don't need him for anything. But that's one play away. What I'm intrigued by is with the emergence and the ascension of Kyler Murray's stock with the NFL scouting combine and the assessment of his skills on tape and the changing NFL and the changing standards of NFL quarterbacks, we are now looking at 2 consecutive quarterbacks from Oklahoma as Heisman Trophy winners who will be the number 1 selection most likely at the NFL draft. Therefore, we've got a bit of a downgrade for as good as Jalen Hurts is in running this Oklahoma offense. So how much will this offense have to be scaled back to accommodate his less than sterling passing ability downfield?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thought and an interesting question, Mark. I think, I think I don't know that it'll be scaled down more so than it'll just be tailored more to his strengths. I think one of the things that you'll probably see a little bit more, you'll see a lot of sprint outs. You'll see a lot of getting Hurts on the edge and letting him kind of make the decision whether or not he's going to throw or pass. And and I think you might see a little bit more of a power running game. Kyler Murray ran for a little bit over 1,000, right at about 1,000 yards this year from the quarterback position. But his was more speed, right? He'll beat you around the corner, and he'll kind of for some of those long touchdown runs. He wasn't going to go run between the tackles and blow anybody up. I think you'll probably see that a little bit more this year than what we've seen in the past. Kind of tailor it more to a kind of a Tim Tebow type of run offense, more of a a Sam Ehlinger run offense at the Texas side. So I think it's one of those things that we'll see progress through the first few games. Obviously, Oklahoma doesn't really have a chance to, with starting off with Houston, they don't really have a big chance to, kind of work through that. But I think that'll be key as we, obviously ending the spring season, but then going into fall, as the summer progresses. What are the things that what are the specific plays, the areas that Hurts is really good at? I mean, I think Riley is an offensive genius, so I would, certainly see him, tailoring those packages specifically for him. And the other thing that helps, I think, in the situation is the cupboard is certainly far from bare. At the skill position side, I think we've talked about in several discussions that Oklahoma has 3 5-star receivers that came in the spring, and 2 of the 3 played really well in the spring game. Theo Weiss had a couple of touchdowns. I think he had 3 catches for about 60-something yards. Then we saw Trajan Bridges had about 75 yards in receiving. And then Jaden Hazelwood, which is he only had a couple of grabs, but there's a lot of skill returning at the receiver position. All 3 of the running backs that the 3 leading rushers from a year ago return. Where the biggest question mark, I think, will come into play in terms of how Riley tailors the offense is on the offensive line. Oklahoma lost 4 of their 5 starters from an offensive line a year ago. The only starter wasn't actually available, which is the center, is not available for the spring due to some off-season surgery that he had. So I think how he gels with the offensive line is going to be a big indicator on how Riley's able to tailor that playbook specifically for Hurts.
It's an Oklahoma team that obviously has been prolific offensively, maybe the best in college football over the past several seasons under first Bob Stoops and now Lincoln Riley, who obviously was running the offense prior to becoming the head coach, and with a great run of quarterbacks, and most recently those two prolific receivers. I think the offensive line has not been as publicized, but if you watch college football and read about college football, you know that Oklahoma has fielded one of the very best offensive fronts in college football for the past 3 or 4 seasons. And to that point, I think that's being undersold, because on one hand, you could say, okay, this is Oklahoma. They reload, they're ready to go. Obviously, coaching, I think, is more important along the offensive front than any position in terms of mixing and matching. Can guys play multiple positions? If there's an injury, you don't want to bring in necessarily somebody who's your 8th best player. You want to bring in the next guy off the bench that's the best athlete that can play somewhere. And just the cohesion needed along the offensive front is totally undersold. We don't talk about it enough, or at least on other shows, they don't talk about it enough. We try to emphasize offensive line play because it is critical. It's the most important position on the field as a unit, I believe. And so on one hand, we could say, Oklahoma is going to continue to because the recruiting's been there, and the coaching's still there at the offensive line position to be really good, near best in the nation. Or do they suffer a downturn offensively? Still really good, but with Hurts at quarterback and losing those 4 offensive linemen, do they take a bit of a hit? And now, for the first time in a while, there is most likely a better quarterback at Texas than Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, Mark. I think the key area that I wanted to kind of grab onto that you mentioned was cohesion. I think that's a big one, especially in Bill Bedenbaugh's system. I think when you look at that, it's hard to fathom that they could be as good as they were a year ago. I mean, you have 3 guys that will be playing in the NFL next year, that will be drafted in the first couple of rounds. Cody Ford is a big one that will probably get drafted in the first round. And the others are high, 2nd to 4th round draft grades right there. So absolutely, you can't expect at least, or especially early in the year. You can't expect that to play at the same level. To your point, recruiting is there, so they've got the guys that have been waiting in the wings. That I think the expectation at Oklahoma is, you just reload. But it's much easier said than done. So I certainly would not expect, especially for the first half of the year, for the offensive line to play quite as well. And so what does that mean for Hurts if they're struggling to, is it a pass protection issue? Is it more of a run blocking issue? Does it hurt Oklahoma, making them more one dimensional? And to your point, could it put him in a little bit more pressure on Hurts? I think and I think your point is valid from the Texas perspective. That might hurt some the Oklahoma fans' feelings around here a little bit, but I think it's certainly one of those. Ehlinger had a really good year in 2018. He cut his turnovers down significantly. I think he had 18 or 19 rushing touchdowns, so certainly led Texas to a bowl win over Georgia. So I think I think that's one of the things I love about rivalries. I think one of the things that you've looked at over the last few years is that the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry has not been really the same as what it was. There's not, in rivalries, there's a good healthy kind of balance between competition and just kind of rubbing people the wrong way. I think Tom Herman and Sam Ehlinger have done a good job at rubbing Oklahoma fans the wrong way over the whether it be what Herman said around the down horn sign, trying to get the the Big 12 officials to make that call. So, but I digress just a little bit. But yeah, Ehlinger has I think he's going into it, you have to think that he's probably the first team all Big 12 quarterback selection. As you go into the season with Hurts probably being a step behind him.
With 28AD28 on the line on our live chat, who's been watching for quite some time, of course, paying homage to all day Adrian Peterson. He's asking, Jason, just what do you expect about the combination of running back of Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon?
Yeah, I think they have a good problem at the running back position. They have three running backs that probably could start for anybody else. When you talk about specifically, obviously Trey Sermon and Kennedy Brooks, but then you have T.J. Pledger that played in some spot time. I feel like those three are too good not to be on the field at the same time. So I think that when you talk about Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon, I would expect that Riley uses them pretty closely to the way he used them last year. I think where Sermon does a really good job is he's the more physical, more powerful runner, which he really excels in the not only the short yardage situations, but he excels more so in the late game situation when you've been beating on the defensive line a little bit, and then fourth quarter situations he's able to get those tougher yards. Whereas Kennedy Brooks is kind of more the scat back, the quick, the game breaker type of situation. So I would probably expect a pretty close to a 50-50 carry split between the two, and then obviously Pledger being the third guy and kind of getting in that spot duty when called upon.
Got Jason Ray on the line from Last Word on College Football. He is breaking down Oklahoma as the Sooners wrapped up spring sessions last Friday night, with, of course, another aim at the Big 12 championship in the college football playoff with Jalen Hurts at the controls. So this time last year, Oklahoma fans had to be psyched up for an improved defensive play because Alex Grinch had done wonders at Washington State, went to Ohio State, and you would think with a all-star coaching staff just on the defensive side of bringing in Grinch, who basically raised the level of play at Washington State from top 80 to 85 defenses to top 25 in the nation, statistically at least. Greg Schiano there at Ohio State, a former head coach at both Rutgers and Tampa Bay, that Ohio State should have been loaded on defense and been great on defense with all of the recruiting prowess. And they were great on defense from 2014 through 17, and they were awful last year. Yeah. Of course, most of that blame goes to Schiano because his defense is just too complex. So Grinch leaves Ohio State, goes to Oklahoma. So there has to be a level of optimism that this guy has some secret sauce to improve the defensive play.
Yeah, I think Grinch has been welcomed, by fans and media and everybody alike pretty, in a pretty positive light. I think one of the things that you've heard from Grinch and just listening to some of his interviews and the way he talks, which is a little bit different, not to really trample on Mike Stoops a lot in the previous defensive regime, but you would see a lot of excuses from that group, whether it be more of the spread offenses or just not being able to play defense at the same level that you used to with that kind of the pass happy Big 12. But I think one of the things that you've seen early on with Alex Grinch is he's a no nonsense, no excuse type of guy. So he has been, very quick to illustrate that, it's an uphill battle in terms of changing the culture. I think there's been a culture of kind of accepting mediocrity within the team over the last handful of years. And I think what he's been doing is, laying that foundation in the spring to be able to change that culture a little bit. And I think some of the things that you saw, at least off the cuff in the spring game, was that you saw a team that was rallying a little bit more to the football than they have in the past. So Grinch's moniker is Speed D, in terms of just getting a lot of gang tackling, turnovers, forcing turnovers, whether it be fumbles, interceptions. I think his last team in Washington State, is either led the nation or was in the top 5 in turnover margin. So that's that's the basis around his defense was to force turnovers. So I think you saw a little bit of good and a little bit of kind of the same stuff in the spring game. You saw a lot of rallying to the football, a lot of gang tackling, but then you also see solo one-on-one tackles, and that's one of the things that Grinch has preached through spring, and then that he said on his post, red white interview was he was pretty pleased with with where they were from a tackling perspective. There was some individual tackles, and with a spread offense, you're going to get spread out a little bit, right? You're going to you're going to get spread out, and you'll have corners on an island. You'll have safeties that are going to have to make one-on-one tackles in space, and that's going to happen. But as much as He wants to, have the team in a position where they're, rallying to the football. I think it's good. I think fans will just have to certainly be patient. You have to. It can't go any farther than up. I mean, you can't get any worse than where it was last year. I think he pointed out that that Oklahoma in pass defense were ranked dead last, and that's. I mean, I think that's when you think about the culture at Oklahoma and you think about all that they have. It's hard to believe that you've got a team at their level that's gotten to that point. But I think I think unfortunately that's kind of where he is. With this team that they were dead last in pass defense. So I don't for Oklahoma fans to expect a top 20 to top 30 defense next year. Probably not going to get there. That's probably a bit unreasonable to get from that point to top 20, top 30. But I think if you look at a team that is, if you look and if they're able to get in the top 50, top 60, I think that shows the vast improvement of the roster from last year to this year and the talent. The team has talent. I think it's just a part of the buy-in. Have they bought in? Will they buy in specifically when things start? If you have some negative experience, especially early in the year, how is Grinch able to keep that glue together with the team? So I think you'll certainly see some improvement at the level of what that improvement looks like remains to be seen. But I think certainly that that'll pay dividends whether or not Oklahoma can make it back to a third straight playoff appearance.
Oklahoma College Football Talk, courtesy Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football. So I encourage you to go there to Last Word on College Football with some of our very favorite people: Lauren Beasley, Tony Siracusa, formerly Donald King, Mike LaValle, and of course Jason here with a rundown on college football and talking OU Sooners, who are the favorite once again to win the Big 12. My favorite springtime, summertime question, Jason, because I would like to, I'm not saying I accomplished this, but I would like to know more personnel than anybody you can find anywhere covering college football across the board. I would like to know more players and about those players, know the rosters better than anyone. So I'm always asking and tapping guys like you to say, who are the up-and-comers? Who are the guys that are going to break out? Who are the guys that you really like who aren't necessarily household names even for an ardent college football fan?
So on the offensive side of the ball, I think, and he's not really a newcomer. I think a guy that we talked about some of the freshmen, so I'll stay away from the freshmen because I think those are no-brainer from the receiver position. But I think one guy that was a teammate of Kyler Murray's in high school is Lee Morris. I mean, I think he's a guy that could make a lot of noise, that he's a little bit under the radar at the receiver position. He had a really good spring. He had a long reception. I think he had 3 catches for 79 yards. He scored a lot of touchdowns. He didn't have a ton of receptions last year, but he did have a lot of touchdowns. So I think at the receiver position, he's a good one. He's a good one to kind of look out for. On the offensive line, another guy that I would kind of peg is Adrian Ely. Him and Bray Walker. Those are the two of the bookends on the offensive line right now. They're both mammoths. I mean, they're both about 6'6", 6'7", 320, 330. I think those two guys are going to be vitally important to the success of Oklahoma this year. As we talked about on the offensive line, and a couple of guys on defense. Primarily on the defensive line, Ronnie Perkins is a guy that I think is poised to have an excellent sophomore year. He played a lot as a true freshman on the defensive line. I think he was very impactful earlier in the year. He kind of hit a little bit of a freshman wall late in the year, but he's going to be Oklahoma's primary pass rusher from the end perspective. So he's a guy that has superstar just written all over him. I think he's one of those guys that another year in the weight room, another full year of off-season conditioning, a full season, a full season of kind of getting into Grinch's system, understanding that, and then a guy that came in super highly recruited last year was Brendan Radley Hiles, out of California, out of the IMG. He was very ballyhoo coming in last year. Had a tough year, to be honest with you. He's on the smaller side. He's about 5'9". He played out of position a little bit. He played at the safety position last year, and he got to the point where, especially, I think it was very evident in the West Virginia game, he got beat about 2 or 3 times deep for touchdowns in that game, and he eventually got benched late in the year. Especially that Alabama game. So he's come back. I think he's come back pretty strong in the spring. He had a couple of sacks. He had a fumble recovery in the spring game. To see how he is able to kind of mature and go through that for the first time, probably in his career playing football. He went through some adversity. He went through some areas where he wasn't the best on the field. He wasn't, even top, one of the 11 best to get on the field at that point. So seeing how he, kind of comes back from that towards the end of the year, I think will be good. So those are just 4 or 5 names to keep an eye on.
Hey, Jason, if you don't mind, I'll keep you on the line for just a minute or two. We are awaiting Steve Hellwagon to talk Ohio State football, but for whatever reason, we've got some Tennessee fans that are interested in the series that's going to ensue starting in 2020. I believe there's another game in 2024. Just your thoughts about signing Tennessee, what games in the future you're excited about Oklahoma playing. Of course, the big non-conference date this year is against UCLA out at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent series. I think we're all college football fans, right? First and foremost, and we love to see those games. I think Oklahoma has, certainly with Tennessee. They have some stuff with Alabama that just got scheduled. There's some stuff with LSU. Tennessee was one of my personal bucket list items. That I got the opportunity to go to Knoxville when Oklahoma traveled to Tennessee a few years ago. Honestly, one of the best games I've actually ever seen in person. I like to give Mike LaValle a lot of hard time for that game, because Oklahoma was certainly was down 17-3 going into the fourth quarter. I think everything kind of went right for Oklahoma in that game. Everything went wrong for Tennessee down the stretch. But I think that was really Baker Mayfield's coming out party. So yeah, those games, especially as you play in the Big 12. I mean, I think having those games in the preseason are important. Number one, not in the preseason, but the non-conference season. I think that's important. For a variety of different reasons. It helps your strength of schedule, certainly as you start looking at the playoffs. But I think it also, playing those types of games don't hurt you as much as you do if you play, maybe a team that doesn't have kind of the same notoriety as a Tennessee or as an Alabama or as an LSU. So.
All right, Jason, we thank you so much for stopping by again. Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football. Please join him right there for Oklahoma in particular. Appreciate it, Jason.
All right. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Talking Ohio State football, we got Steve Hellwagon on the line, a senior Big Ten writer there at Bucknuts 247 Sports. Steve, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Mark. What's going on?
What is going on? You can't keep a quarterback on campus. That's what's going on.
Yeah, that kind of came out of left field not long after Ohio State wrapped up spring football. Within 3 days last week, Matthew Baldwin came out with the idea that he was going to enter the transfer portal. And Ohio State is currently finishing spring semester classes. And I know this because I have twins who are in their second year at Ohio State, and we've been moving them piece by piece and little by little back from campus. So I know that the exams are ongoing, and I assume that once Matthew Baldwin is done with the spring semester classes, he will get into the decision phase and figure out what his next step is going to be. And certainly I would assume the same thing applies for Ryan Day and his coaching staff, and finding a graduate transfer from the transfer portal that will, come in and provide the kind of depth that Ohio State's going to need at the quarterback position. There have been a few names that have been thrown out there, but I don't know. It's happened so quickly that I don't think anybody has a full idea yet of who's going to be interested or who Ohio State's going to be interested in just yet. But yeah, it's a very interesting situation. I mean, Matthew Baldwin played had 36 throws in the spring game, threw for almost 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 4 days later wants to leave Ohio State. And we don't really have the full rationale yet of why that came about, other than it seems pretty obvious to everybody that Justin Fields, transfer from Georgia, will be the number 1 quarterback. And he got the preponderance of the reps during the spring with the first team. So looks like Matthew Baldwin decided that he wanted to try his hand somewhere else, perhaps somewhere closer to his home in Austin, Texas. I mean, there's any number of Division I schools within the state of Texas alone, probably 12 to 13 of them that he could fit in somewhere, maybe a little bit closer to home as a potential quarterback. But hardly got to know ye, or whatever that whatever that phrase is. It really is a tough situation for Ohio State. I mean, he redshirted last year coming off the knee injury, and Ohio State helped him rehab his knee. And now that he's full go, is not going to be sticking around, it doesn't seem, to compete for that job.
Get Steve Hellwagon on the line from Bucknuts. Join him right there for the best in Ohio State football coverage, talking about Matthew Baldwin moving on. And, of course, with the Tate Martell transfer earlier, leaves the Buckeyes exposed at quarterback. You got to wonder that, considering the spring game performance for Matthew Baldwin versus a 4 for 13 effort out of Justin Fields, and I think fans make too much out of the spring game and the performance there. Obviously, there are scrimmages that are just as important to the coaches, and they see the guys in practice every day. And we see the glorified scrimmage at the spring game. And then, but had that narrative been playing out through much of the spring in regards to Baldwin playing that well and maybe Fields struggling a bit, that Baldwin was a bit frustrated by it not necessarily being a competition, just that Justin Fields has this pedigree, therefore he's got the job.
Yeah, you make a very good case. The days that we got to watch, it seemed like Fields got probably 80% of the reps with the first team, and Baldwin maybe 20%. So it didn't seem like it was a true 50-50 or even 60-40 proposition where you could say that both guys were given every opportunity. In their defense, I mean, Baldwin did get highlighted, for lack of a better term, in the spring game, but that's also now his platform to jump off and go maybe play somewhere else. So, I guess this is the day and age that we live in. Even and I'm trying to choose my words wisely here, even people that you bend over backwards to try and help with their situation, that loyalty is not necessarily going to be a two-way street. So, again, till I've walked a mile in his shoes, I don't know what he went through in his first year at Ohio State. A long way from home, and it's entirely possible that there could be other factors in mind, but he has left Ohio State in quite a lurch. There's no doubt about that.
There's one comment that comes to mind that Urban Meyer made just following the enormous win 2 years ago against Penn State, 39-38, that great classic comeback win in which Ryan Day rushed into the film room or rushed into the coach's room, whatever the meeting circumstance was, to basically grab Urban Meyer and say, you got to see this kid, Matthew Baldwin from Texas, and watch him on tape. And Urban Meyer's like, we're preparing for Penn State. This is important. And Ryan Day was that adamant about his throwing ability, and Urban Meyer needing to see him to get on it, to get him to Columbus, them being that impressed about Matthew Baldwin's ability, regardless of him not being a primary, like 5 or 4 star recruit or whatever the case might be. He wasn't rated near the top of the rankings. But Matthew Baldwin moves on, and we will see where he lands and competes for a job. We got Steve Hellwagon on the line talking Ohio State football. So again, you can support the channel by grabbing the Amazon link in the description section of any of the videos. You don't spend a penny, just do your regular shopping, and you support the channel right there. And the audio platforms, we're available on all the major platforms as well. People are asking about Garrett Wilson. That kid looked super smooth in the spring game, and I guess from what I hear, that's just an extension of what everybody saw in practice, that once he stepped on the field, he showed, yeah, I am truly a 5-star and ready to play. He's just that talented.
Yeah, he may be. We think the highest rated wide receiver that Ohio State has signed in quite a while. We were discussing it. Ted Ginn Jr. was the number 2 overall prospect in the country back in 2004, although he was mostly looked at as a cornerback, although he didn't hardly even rep at cornerback before they moved him over to wide receiver in that freshman year. And then the rest was history. Now he's a 13-year NFL veteran, but Wilson has got some uncanny ability, and he went up over a defensive back in the spring game, caught a touchdown pass, very impressive. Ironically, it was from his high school teammate, Matthew Baldwin, who he will never, it seems, get to play in a regular season game together, and Wilson's probably displeased by this whole set of circumstances as well, to lose a friendly face and a guy who was here last year, one of his friends probably to not be around. But Wilson, tremendous athlete, great route runner, great athletic ability for you'd say he's right around 6 foot, 6'1" maybe, and has got incredible leaping ability, as we saw, to high point the football and make those plays. And so I think he's a guy that you're going to see quite a bit. It seems to me like the 3 starters at wide receiver will probably be the 3 seniors, with Austin Mack, KJ Hill, and Benjamin Victor. But then you've got probably nearly as talented a group coming in off the bench with Chris Olave, also Garrett Wilson, and Jalen Harris, when he's healthy. He missed the last little part of spring. CJ Saunders, the former walk-on, he made a couple nice plays in the spring game as well. So they are pretty deep at wide receiver, almost 3 deep at each position. And I think they're going to rotate a lot of guys and get a lot of people involved. And again, I don't think you're going to see an offense that is going to come close to the throwing numbers that we had last year with Dwayne Haskins throwing for just shy of 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. But it's still going to be impressive nonetheless with Justin Fields now, the unquestioned number 1 quarterback going in to the summer. And obviously the biggest thing for the Buckeyes will be keeping him healthy at this point and keeping him out there on the field.
Talking Buckeyes, we've got Steve Hellwagon on the line. You can join him at Bucknuts. It's the 247 Sports platform for Ohio State athletics, Ohio State football coverage in particular. We've got the NBA fan commenting on the live chat. Basically, he's wondering about the defensive scheme, and that the bullet position seems to lend itself to one approach versus maybe the personnel not necessarily buying into or contradicting what would the bullet position would serve, and maybe a 4-3 defense being better. I don't know if you've heard anything in regards to your interviews in the spring on what would be best for this defense.
Well, I think that, again, they are looking for ways to get the best 11 guys on the field in every situation. And, I'm not going to get wrapped up in it. I think that the defense, whatever they do, is going to be an improvement over what they had last year. The big key is, when you get into the big games, are they going to be able to hold the major opponents down and create a winnable situation for the football team? And I don't have any doubt about that. I think that the defense as a whole is going to be pretty strong. And as long as they, regardless of what they do in the back seven, as long as they've got the 4-man front, with the likes of Chase Young and Tyreek Smith. I went back and did a research article looking at Justin Fields and his play in the spring game. And the thing that kept hitting me between the eyes was how Tyreek Smith was living in the backfield. And I don't think that bodes real well for the guys who were playing on the offensive line. Nicholas Petit-Frere and Josh Allaby were kind of pressed into service with the first team on the offensive line. I think Brandon Bowen's going to be at tackle, and the Rutgers transfer Jonah Jackson is going to be at guard when push comes to shove in the fall. Jackson hasn't even arrived on campus yet. So in my way of thinking, you set the tone up front, coming all the way around the bend with Tyreek Smith, Robert Landers, Devon Hamilton. He made a couple nice plays in the spring game as well. Chase Young. You've got, an outstanding defensive line that can get after opposing quarterbacks. And so I am of a mind that they're going to set the tone for the defense. Malik Harrison can run. He had a play where he tracked down Justin Fields running sideline to sideline. He showed amazing speed, I thought, as well throughout the spring. So he's going to play. They've got a three-man competition at middle linebacker, Baron Browning, Tuff Borland. Those two guys are holdovers, and then Taraja Mitchell, who's a sophomore, he's going to get a chance as well. So I think that between the front four and those two linebacker spots, they got some pretty solid people who are going to play. And then that third linebacker spot, Pete Werner would be the starter right now, but that's the one that would come off the field for the Bullets. So if they have a down and distance and game and time and yard line situation where they think it behooves them to go to the fifth defensive back, and it's this Bullet, and it's a guy who can support the run and make plays sideline to sideline and help in coverage, I have no problem with this. I don't think the production was all that great from the linebacker group as a whole last year, so I'm not sure exactly what we're kvetching about. I mean, Jeff Hafley and Greg Madison are experts. Jeff Hafley coached in the National Football League. There's never been a situation that Greg Madison hasn't seen in his time as a coach. If they put their heads together and said, well, we've got Brendan White and Sean Wade and Jeffrey Okuda and Jordan Fuller and all these other guys, Damon Arnett coming back as well. Those are five pretty good players. So if they have a situation where they're trying to get all five of those guys on the field, the fifth one of those guys may be better than the other linebacker they put out there. So, again, this is not my forte. This is not my area of expertise, designing winning defensive football. But if that's what they think is what's going to happen for them to contend, I mean, most of the teams they play run the spread at this point and some variation of it. And if they feel that this is the best way to attack the spread is with this, then so be it. My guess is when they play Wisconsin, who lines up and tries to run over you, or Michigan State, which is more of a pro-style offense, well, yeah, maybe you'd stick with your 4-3, and it's the soundest way to attack that offense. But most of the teams you're playing are spread teams with three wide receivers, a one back set, one tight end, maybe two tight ends, whatever it may be. And to me, this just makes perfect sense. I mean, you got beat last year on plays in space. I mean, bigger than anything, plays in space killed Ohio State last year. They weren't bombs. They were plays that started as running plays or short passes that turned into long plays. And if they feel that this defense is what it's going to take to curtail those plays and make teams go station to station and get 10 yards and move the sticks and get 10 yards again and move the sticks. Ohio State, with the way they're going to move the ball offensively, they're going to win the battle field position all night long against whoever they play. If they just get a first down or two and then have to punt the football, they've pinned the opponent back. I mean, Drew Krisman was a tremendous weapon for Ohio State last year, punting the football, as was Johnston prior to him. And they've got a formula in place on how to play the overall game of football. It's it's honestly to play great offense at this point because you've recruited so well. You have talent across the board. Move the football, and the best defense is a good offense. Maybe at some point, I don't know, but if you, and this came from Jim Tressel years ago. He said, if we can pin the opponent back and they have to get 6 first downs to score a touchdown, that's awfully hard to do. So stop the big play, pin the other opponent back, and, make them have to go 70, 80 yards against a sound defense. That's a tough task in today's modern college football.
Exactly. You're playing the probabilities there because you're forcing the offense to be perfect. And you may not make a defensive play to stop the drive, but they misfire a pass, they drop one, they have a penalty. A number of things can happen when you extend the drive and force them to go 85 yards instead of go 60 yards. And that certainly plays into the hands of the defense and the probabilities of getting a stop. Again, not even just based on your defensive prowess and being able to make a play on defense, but them just making a mistake and getting themselves behind the sticks. We got Steve Hellwagon on the line. Steve, I believe you certainly addressed what was going to be my next question, courtesy the live chat concerning the linebackers and people's concern about the linebackers. And you certainly addressed that again with some struggles in space against the likes of a lot of the teams that we mentioned outside of, yes, i.e. Wisconsin, in particular, Michigan State, the Oklahoma game from 2 years ago, even though that defensive performance start to finish, both against Oklahoma, who only had 9 points on the board going into the fourth quarter, and for the entire season was much better. When they had issues, it was covering those backs in space and the tight end and so forth at the linebacker position. But Ohio State believes they're better fortified and from a scheme standpoint, better prepared to give these kids a simplistic defense that they can just run and hit and use their athleticism to get the job done. Steve, Michigan, and I believe this comes from head coaching stability and from quarterback stability with Shea Patterson and Jim Harbaugh, has been installed by most as not just a Big Ten favorite, but like an overwhelming favorite when you consider that the college football playoff predictor states that Michigan has a 41% chance of making the playoff and Ohio State has a 6% chance. Now that seems ridiculous to me. 7 times better chance than Ohio State of getting to the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the data is that they've put into the formula because Ohio State's going to have 9 guys back on defense. It's going to be much improved on defense. And, I mean, perhaps they looked at what Justin Fields did in the spring game and were not impressed by that, which is easy to understand because he was 4 of 13, as we talked about. But I am not of a mind to downrate Ohio State on the basis of what he did in the spring game. I think the idea coming out of the spring was that on the whole he was pretty good. I honestly don't know what to say about that because Michigan, when you think about it from even a 5 miles up in the air point of view, they have to play Notre Dame. Now it's at home, and they also get Ohio State at home, which is a tremendous benefit for them. To win one or both of those games would be huge. But their non-conference by playing Notre Dame is much tougher than Ohio State. Ohio State has to play Florida Atlantic, Cincinnati, and the third one, I'm drawing a blank on it.
Miami of Ohio, I believe.
Yeah, Miami of Ohio, which was like a 500 team in the MAC last year. So, I mean, Cincinnati was a 10-win team last year, beat Virginia Tech in their bowl game, I believe. And they're going to come to Columbus and give Ohio State a test. But I think Notre Dame goes into Michigan and gives them a much tougher game than anything Ohio State's going to face. And then I presume their Big Ten schedules are pretty comparable. They play each other. So the better team between the two of them is going to probably represent the Eastern Division. I don't know what to say. I mean, I could be flippant and I can point out that, over the last 10 or 15 years, and I've never done any research, but I can almost say without even looking, that there hasn't been a college in America, other than maybe Notre Dame, that has started at one place in the preseason poll and ended up well below where they started in the preseason poll in the postseason poll than the University of Michigan. And I mean, they are perennially top 10, 7, 8, 9, 10 every year, and they never finish top 10. And I mean, maybe one top 10 in the last 15 years, maybe. So I guess you're gonna have to show me. You're gonna have to, tell me and show me. And I'm gonna readily state Shea Patterson, they could have a pretty good team, but you lose the guys that they lost. I mean, Bush, Winovich,
Gary.
the guy all those guys on defense, you lose the guys that they lost, and you're telling me they're going to be just as good or better. And even with those guys, they came into Columbus with this number 2, number 3, number 1 ranked defense that gave up 62 points. So, they may be driven to finally get the Ohio State monkey off their back, and the game is in Ann Arbor, but you're going to have to show me before I can buy into that entirely. So I don't know. I'm not trying to play the partisan card or anything else other than to say, that's cute. I suppose that's maybe this is going to be their year. Every dog has their day, I guess, and maybe this will be it for them. But again, you're just going to have to prove it to me. You're going to have to show it to me, because I haven't seen anything over the last 10 years to indicate that. They haven't recruited at the same level Ohio State's recruited. I don't know. I don't know. I'm at a loss. There's a stat kind of segueing into the draft that in the playoff era, the last 4 years, Ohio State's had 31 guys drafted, and the next 2 best teams in the Big Ten had 19 and 12. So Ohio State alone had as many as the next 2 teams in the Big Ten combined drafted in the last 4 or 5 years. And there's nothing to indicate that the talent has dropped off at Ohio State. They didn't have a pair of classes that were ranked in the 20s. Every class they've signed's been in the top 5 or 6. Now they have to go out on the field and prove it. They have to go out on the field and play championship football. But even with the substandard defense last year, of course, you got a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback performance from Dwayne Haskins. You won 13 games, won the Big Ten, and won the Rose Bowl. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not trying to be that troll or be that guy. I'm just pointing out that they're not as Ohio State's defense is nowhere near as bad as maybe they were. They'll be nowhere near as bad as they were last year. They're going to be much improved.
So they've got too much talent.
Yeah, I've gone off on a tangent here. It's
I love it.
It's a long season. It's a long season, and anything can happen. If Fields gets hurt, they're 8-4. I mean, there's just no question about it. I mean, who are you going to put in there? You got Chris Chugunov, who was Will Greer's backup at West Virginia when he got hurt a couple of years ago. I don't think they won any of the games he started at West Virginia when he got in there. So it really is a harrowing situation right now, unless and until they can find somebody who can help stabilize that quarterback situation.
Well, can you just imagine if what just happened with Matthew Baldwin and Tate Martell leaving would have happened in 2014? There would have not been a J.T. Barrett or Cardell Jones backing up a Braxton Miller when he got hurt to save the season and win a national championship. That would have been fascinating. We would have never known what would have happened, but they would have not went 14-1 and won a national championship. You also give me the last thing I'll say here, Steve, before we move on to Miami talk, is that your comment about the NFL draft and having as many NFL draft selections from Ohio State as the next 2 teams in the Big Ten over the course of however many years, the last few years, is the quality of those selections is also not even close. If we would also measure not just the quantity, but the quality of selections, first rounders, high seconds, etc. You've given me 2 great video topics here. Rankings difference. who is ranked where in the preseason poll over the last 10 years versus where have they finished, and what schools have had the biggest disparity. And I think you gave me two good schools to start with in Notre Dame and Michigan. And then the other one, NFL draft selections.
Yeah, I think in the last 10 years, USC has probably be up there since Pete Carroll left. It's been perennially top 10 every year and not even ranked probably at the end of most of these years. And then, I mean, I'm just calling it the way I see it. I mean, Notre Dame, obviously made the playoff this past year. Don't recall where they were in the preseason, although I know that there was a lot of hype for their game with Michigan early in the season. Just to hit the draft real quick, I know it's coming up tomorrow. Fully expect Bosa to go in the top 2 picks. Haskins, to my way of thinking, would be great to go to the New York Giants at number 6. But the Bengals or the Miami Dolphins would also be good spots for him to land. And, here's a statistic. All time, USC has 81 first-round picks. Ohio State has 79. Mel Kiper does not have anybody from USC projected in the first round. In one of his projections, he snuck either Campbell or McLaurin into the first round. So if they get Bosa, they get Haskins, and either Campbell or McLaurin or Draymond Jones, who it only takes one team to like one of those 3 guys late in the first round, and USC gets shut out in the first round, Ohio State takes the all-time lead, or they're worse going to tie it if USC doesn't get one, because Bosa and Haskins are guaranteed first-round picks. They're at least going to tie it. If they get a third one and USC goes over, Ohio State takes the all-time lead. And one more stat to throw out there, Haskins will be the first Big Ten quarterback to go in the first round since Kerry Collins from Penn State in 1996.
I know, it's crazy.
And the funny thing is, I can remember where I was. My cousin, I think she got married that day in Yorksville, Ohio, and I was at her wedding reception, and we were watching the draft in the bar at the wedding reception. I remember this because Ricky Dudley, who was a tight end from Ohio State, went in the top 10 or 15 picks of the NFL draft, and no one had been – he went ahead of Eddie George.
Tampa Bay.
I believe. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. But at any rate, Kerry Collins, the last Big Ten quarterback, taken the first round, although Drew Brees and, of course, the guy at New England, have had amazing NFL careers. And Russell Wilson technically is a Big Ten guy from Wisconsin. But,
yeah, there may be 3 Hall of Famers right there from the Big Ten that didn't get into the first round.
That's our draft talk. Those are our storylines going into tomorrow on the draft.
Oh, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts. Join him right there at 247 Sports, the best in Ohio State football coverage. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by. We'll be locked in for the draft, and hopefully we can catch up with you next week.
All right, Mark. Take care.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. All right. We roll on with, of course, Mr. Cam Underwood from State of the U, talking Miami football with the Canes going to the practice field for the very final time in Orlando against themselves for the spring game. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. So just here hanging out, ready to talk some Canes football with you guys.
Absolutely. So I thought that it would be better than trying to shut down and restart a live stream just to keep this thing going. And so what we're going to do for people that are jumping on later, if you want to just to see Oklahoma, if you just want to see Ohio State, or in the finality, Miami, I will clip off those segments and have specific segments for those particular teams. We got Cam Underwood, of course, here on a Wednesday night. So please remember that we've got the super chat going. Cam has a full-time job. He has a full-time job as running the State of the U. Of course, you want to check that out for Miami Athletics. And as the NFL draft ensues this weekend, thoughts there about Canes going to those respective NFL teams. But please just keep that under consideration as Cam gives us great analysis for the next hour or so. So that being the case, we talked about the challenges of you and the rest of us keeping up with the spring game, and because of the lack of TV and the live stream. So how were you able to accomplish that? And then more importantly, what is your big take?
Yeah, well, there were people there who were, covering the game and tweeting. So all of our guy Gabby Urrutia, who's become our beat writer basically, and he's doing a great job. I give him all of the credit that he deserves all the way through the spring season and moving forward. So obviously he was there. All your normal beat writers: Sun Sentinel, Miami Herald, The Athletic, 247 Sports. And then there were some enterprising individuals in the stands who decided to run their batteries down on their phones with live streams or periscopes or other kinds of things. So yeah, I was able to see some of it. I was running around a little bit because that's a thing that I was going to do on a Saturday because I wasn't up there. But yeah, I got to see a lot of it and get reactions from people who were there. So that was a good thing. So I was able to keep up with it as were the rest of the fan base, who were either just not making the trip up to Orlando or who are not local to South Florida anyway. So that's kind of how we were able to go through that. And then I just obviously tried to read everything possible about the spring game. Obviously, starting with our website. Gabby Urrutia had a nice recap and everything. So going from there, really the thing that stepped up from even just a cursory glance at social media was the fact that Tate Martell. I said that he needed a big game in the final scrimmage after the second scrimmage not really being up to par, and he took a big step forward. And the thing was, they let him work in the shotgun, and that's what we've been saying. If he has to be under center, he can't play here, period. I mean, he just can't. He's not built like that. But when you put him under shot or in the shotgun, then, some things start to work. You had a 80-yard touchdown on an RPO against the second team defense to KJ Osborne, arguably number one receiver, definitely the number one healthy wide receiver because Jeff Thomas and Brian Hightower both had minor knee surgeries. We talked about that last week, or procedures, I should say. So KJ Osborne was the number one receiver who was healthy, but he was working in the slot. And this is a thing that I think that we're going to see from Dan Enos, where he's going to interchange the receiver. So you're not just going to be an X, a Y, or a Z, or slot, whatever. You have to know multiple positions, and that happened on that RPO play. So, it was against the backups. I mean, you have a scholarship player who's not going to play base defense, who, was in the secondary. He got shook, and then he outran some fast guys. Nigel Bethel, who was like a very, very fast kid, sprinter in high school, one of the fastest kids in Dade County when he was coming out of Miami Northwestern. And KJ Osborne got the angle, or he outran the angle and scored from 80. So that was good. And that was, the pass was on time by Martell. He showed, the ability to hit some throws, to move around. And like I said, his game is outside of the pockets. That sandlot football. When he is able to move around, he plays the style of Johnny football, Johnny Manziel. I'm not going to say he's as good as, because if he was, everybody would see that. Everybody would know that. But that same kind of thing. Somebody comes at him, he goes, he spins, he's running around, extending a play, and you can look back all the way to his high school highlights of Bishop Gorman. When he is in rhythm and on time in the pocket, okay, you're going to get your completions, you're going to move the chains. When the play breaks down and Tate Martell has to improvise, that's when you hold your breath. In a good way, because you think, oh my God, this could be a touchdown. He can run, he can throw, he's a dynamic player in that kind of a way. And earlier in the spring, one time I spoke about the fact that Dan Enos said that he wants to tear the quarter or break the quarterbacks down and rebuild them from the studs. So you're going to strip away all of their stuff, what they think or what their perception or their recruiting ranking or and you're really just going to go to the foundation and build them from the ground up. And that is what happened, like when we saw in the second scrimmage, like Perry and Williams were more, easily adaptable to the, playing from under center, I should say. And Tate Martell really struggled. And everybody's going to have things that they struggle with. But when you open up the playbook a little bit, then, you can see some of the things that make him potentially a dynamic player and back into the battle for quarterback one. Because like I said, last time we spoke, Tate Martell was off the radar. And I needed a big showing on last week, Saturday, and we got that. So that's a big takeaway. The defensive line is going to be really good. That's another takeaway. I mean, just across the board. Nessa Silvera, Gregory Rousseau, Jonathan Garvin. It's kind of crazy that we're not talking more about John Garvin because we almost take his greatness for granted at this point. The linebackers, you move Patrick Joyner, who was a linebacker in air quotations in high school. And in Dade County, your best players, you're going to put a defensive end, basically. I mean, your tweeners, your defensive linemen, linebackers, you're going to put them in defensive end and hopefully have them get up the field. And that's what he did in high school, even though he was labeled a linebacker coming out. So he played D end. But, if you're looking at the rotation, Patrick Joyner's probably not going to play much at defensive end. But we need linebackers. And he actually had a couple tackles for loss. He flashed some instincts and potential there. And that makes me happy because, if you have him and then you bring in a Avery Huff, Sam Brooks, he was one of those edge rusher kind of guys at a linebacker for Miami Northwestern. I want to see him transition to actually, stand-up linebacker. But, you move Patrick Joyner back to the second level. And, I'm not going to put him as like the best backup right now, but he has the best skill set of the backups who are currently on campus. And to see that and see him take to that position like a fish to water. I mean, they moved him and boom, he was making plays, within the week that he changed. And bear in mind, there's only 3 practices a week. So he had like 2 practices at linebacker and then he's making plays in the spring game in the scheme of our defense. Yo, I love that. So that was another big takeaway. Running backs are, it's DJ Dallas and Cam Harris. Cam Harris, I'm not ready to put him at running back 1, but it's getting closer, I think. I mean, he's just really taking a huge leap forward. And all the quarterbacks, Martell and Williams and Perry really had strong showings, I think. So, yeah, it kind of evened things out. But, I mean, those are just some of the Cliff's notes off the top of my head. But I think that we did see a lot of things that we needed to see. The offensive line apparently was pretty good. I want to see this Zion Nelson kid in person. Our guy, Justin DeTavio, just wrote a piece about how a 2-star recruit could be, as a true freshman, end up the starting left tackle at Miami. And that would be the case if it were Zion Nelson, because he was a 2-star with one offer, like a couple offers. He was committed to Appalachian State. And then Miami came in late. And this kid is 6'5", 240. He's up to 271 right now. And he's an early enrollee. So you're talking 30 pounds in, 4.5, 5 months. I'm not going to think that he's going to get up to 300 something. But if he could be at, if he's at 271 now, if he's at 280, 285 by the fall, that gives him enough, I think, of a foundation of a base of strength and size to compete out there. And so, Justin DeTavio looked at that. And that's a thing where, I would prefer it if Miami had a ready-made 5-star, returning All-American left tackle. Point of fact is we don't. And if Zion Nelson is proving himself to be the best option there, then I was on another podcast a couple days ago this week, and one of the other panelists threw out the name Jason Fox, former tackle for Miami, who's from Texas originally, and he came in and he was about 6'5", 6'6", 270, and he had a nice career. Ended up playing in the NFL for like a decade almost. And I countered that with also Eric Winston, who came into Miami as a 5-star tight end, but he was like, the 6th lineman for his Texas high school football team. And then he eventually moved over to left tackle, played in the league forever, might still be in the league. I think he was the Players Association president, Eric Winston. But if we can get Zion Nelson to approximate either, or he could, between just Jason Fox or Eric Winston, if we can get that out of him, that would be such a huge win. And especially because, we don't have tackles. And if we found one and he ends up, bucking the trend and being the very lowly recruited guy who is a standout, then I'll take it. But yeah, those are just some of the things that were the reaction, I think, from this spring game. And, the biggest thing at the end was that there were no additional injuries. Everybody made it out healthy. And that's always a good thing from spring, or the last spring game at least, because there were injuries before that.
Eric Winstead played in the NFL for 165 games, 127 of those starts. Last for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2017. Apparently, it's 2017, so he missed last season. So apparently he has finally hung it up after a lengthy NFL career. We got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U talking Miami football. And Cam, as I was looking at the numbers and talking about the numbers of viewers, I was wondering, it usually – wherever it's sitting 30 and then just go and then you just see it going up by the second and it's just hanging around 32. And I was wondering what the deal was, the power of the Miami brand. So I had this labeled because it originally started at 7 o'clock or 6:30 with me taking a call-in show, just the Voice of College Football call-in show wasn't labeled Miami. So I have made those edits and hopefully now the swarm comes in to talk and listen to Cam. analyze Miami football and what's happened there in Coral Gables over the last month. All right, Cam, we got Coconut Kane on the line talking about the Dan Enos offense. And if I recall, you basically said one of the brilliance of Dan Enos's approach is that it's very adaptable, very flexible. Coconut Kane asking which quarterback fits the Dan Enos offense best. And also, as we project forward to other quarterbacking recruits, what would be the type of quarterback that Dan Enos would want to have come to Miami?
Those are really good questions. First of all, we're going to start with the offense. Dan Enos himself said that the offense would change. It would be different with each of the three contenders at quarterback. So depending on who wins the job, the things that are highlighted, the things that they do, the things that they'll lean on a little bit will change. So you're going to have your staples, your foundation, your inside dive, your outside zone, all those kind of things, but you're going to build out the rest of the offense in a different kind of a way. So I don't necessarily think that there's one quarterback on the roster even who is the fit for the offense, because Dan Enos is doing what we've asked. He says that he's going to do what we've asked, and that is thinking players first, plays second. So, he's talking about, look, Jeff Thomas needs to get 10, 12 touches a game. So I'm going to think of 10 or 12, ways to get him the ball. Now, if we find this particular play works, you always have that. If you see it in the first quarter and it works, maybe you're going to come back to it. Maybe if you see it in the first quarter and you get a tackle for loss because somebody blows their block, but you see that the route combination is going to work, you might come back to that. So I'm not going to say it's going to be 10 different things, but you're going to think of, probably 10 or 12 or 15 different ways to get him the ball. And then you're going to use the game situations to find a way to make that happen. If Tate Martell is the quarterback, you're going to see more quarterback run. You're going to see more option, more zone, more called quarterback draws. Think Kyler Murray. I'm not saying that he's going to be the same, performance as Kyler Murray. I'm thinking, because I was just watching on ESPN, they were playing, or ESPNU, they were playing back some of the greatest hits of some of the upcoming draft picks for, tomorrow. And I was watching it was Oklahoma, West Virginia game. And when he scored Murray on that first 70-yard touchdown or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, that's a zone read, or that's a scramble. They're like, no, that's a called quarterback run. He's going to sit there, 1, 2, boom. Running back's going to block, kick out. And then you're going to go. You're going to see that if Tate Martell is the quarterback. You probably won't see that if Jaron Williams is the quarterback. You'll probably see some kind of quarterback run, but still not probably the same iteration thereof if N'Kosi Perry is the quarterback. So I think that there are things to like for all three quarterbacks, and I think that Dan Enos is getting a feel for what they do best. I think that you're going to see more, maybe more play action from Jaron Williams, just thinking about his skill set, his accuracy, especially in the mid, the intermediate range. I think that you're going to see more shots over the top with N'Kosi Perry because he has absolute cannon for an arm. So, yeah, I think that all three quarterbacks could be very good in the offense. And again, you need the offensive line to block well. You need the running backs to perform well. You need receivers to catch the ball. Tight ends are going to be a huge part of the game plan because we have two of the best tight ends in America in Brevin Jordan and Will Mallory. And I saw some people discussing this from even when they were recruits before they were even freshmen. And I tend to agree with it. As good as Brevin Jordan is, and Brevin Jordan is better right now, Will Mallory's ceiling for potential might even be higher than Brevin Jordan's. And Brevin Jordan was a freshman All-American. Well, you're thinking junior, senior, NFL kind of a thing. Will Mallory might have a higher ceiling. And that is saying something because Brevin Jordan is a special, special player at tight end. So, yeah, you're going to think players before plays. And the offense is going to be different depending on who is the quarterback. So I think that it will fit their skills as opposed to them, the quarterback, fitting to what the offense wants to do. We're going to fit the offense to what they do well, if that makes sense. So it's a difference in the approach. Insofar as quarterbacks of the future, Miami did just contact another kid recently. I forget his name, but he threw for 3,500 yards and 33 touchdowns and 5 interceptions as a junior. So why not? Excuse me. I think it's from Georgia or something like that. But I mean, when you have stats like that, yeah, okay, we can contact. He's a 3-star right now, but apparently he went to the opening Atlanta and everybody was like, yo, this kid was really, really good. So, credit to Dan Enos for reaching out to the kid. And I'm sorry, I read it earlier and I'm tired because I just came back from the gym, so I do not remember his name. Anyways, I think that we're going to look for the best player available. And hopefully in 2020, we're going to get a kid or a guy at least. I would like it to be, at least a kid who we think in 3 years could be the starting quarterback. In 2021, I want to see us get a superstar, like that Jake Garcia kid from California, who's a potential 5-star who just visited last week. Yeah. Give me that. And look, I'm not going to turn down a 5-star in 2020. Like, I'm not, right now. No. I'm not going to turn down any 5-stars. I just think that we're going to be in the solid kind of player range right now. So stepping from a program player last year with Peyton Matoka to a potential starter to a potential superstar over these 3 years. But I don't think that there is a specific archetype that we have to fit. I think we just need to get the most talented guys that we can possibly get. Because again, Dan Enos's offense is going to be malleable to the talent available. So if you have, a better running game, hopefully you have an offensive line to lean on that. If you have a quarterback who's more of a pocket passer, then you're going to lean on that. If you have a quarterback who's going to be a scrambler like Tate Martell, then you're going to build those things in. So I don't think that we have to get a specific, type of player. Plus the fact, more often than not, players can move. You know what I mean? Like, I worked at Miramar High School when Geno Smith was there, and he was everybody's All-American. He could throw the ball a mile. You would not think of Geno Smith as anybody's dual threat. I mean, I know that like people who don't follow recruiting think, oh, he's 6'4", 173 pounds, and he's a black kid. He has to be able to run fast. Not really. But he would move in that pocket, and if he saw that he needed it's 3rd and 9, he's going to run and get you 12. If you're playing man free and everybody's back is turned, he said, you know what? I'm going to step, look, I can go. So even a kid like that coming from high school could move enough to get the job done. You know what I mean? So as long as we don't have somebody who is cement-footed, look, he's great, but Brad Kaya was not mobile at all. Like, he ran for a first down, I think the final bowl game, and everybody's mind blew, like it was exploded. Like, what? He could do that? As long as we don't get somebody who's that kind of slow, then I think that the offense will be okay. So Jaren Williams, again, nobody's, sprinting All-American, but he can run, he can move enough. N'Kosi Perry is probably a little bit better runner than is Williams. Tate Martell, we already see his, like the Sam McGuffey highlight tape from years ago where he's juking people and jumping over guys. So I don't necessarily think that there's a thing like that. As long as you have a strong arm and the base of some good technique and projectable accuracy. Like, you cannot be completely scattershot, where I have a cannon for an arm and I have no idea where it's going to go. If you look, and Danny knows things, look, we have the ability to teach you how to put the ball in a place, then you can choose the place and put the ball there consistently, then that's the kind of guy who I think that we should get. So yeah, I don't think that it's going to be one kind of pocket passer or dual threat guy or whatever, but best players available. And then, hopefully you have a diversity of skill sets in that, in the room. And then, you just let them battle it out just like we're doing this year.
If you love the content on Miami football, specifically with Cam Underwood from State of the U, please contribute a number of ways you can do that. Certainly like the video. If nothing else, like the live stream. It helps us on YouTube. Of course, make your comments known, share the videos, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And, of course, we've got the super chat on. Justin Firm, we thank you. And also, I lost his name, Ricky Suave. Thank you so much for contributing to the super chat as well. Ricky has a question concerning the wide receiver position and who should be the leading receiver. Ricky's going to pin it down to specifically receiving yards this year.
The leading receiver in receiving yards this year should be Jeff Thomas. He's the most dynamic player. You saw it last year. He was averaging almost 40 yards a catch through the first 3 games. Yeah, he's going to move around the formation. He's going to be, in multiple different places. So, he's not that 6'1", 6'2" person like Ahman Richards was, where you can put him at the X and then just say, okay, look, work it out. But yeah, it should be him. I think, tight ends are going to have a pretty good receiving season because they're, it's easier to see them in the middle of the field. I think KJ Osborne's going to have a good year. I think that they're going to rotate a lot on offense at the receiver position. So, your Mark Pope's going to get snaps. D. Wiggins, Brian Hightower, Jeremiah Payton as a true freshman is going to play snaps for this team. So there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to get, catches and yards. But in a perfect world, it's going to be Jeff Thomas because Jeff Thomas is going to use the Jets, and he's going to really, I mean, he's going to be 20-something yards a catch. He's going to be stretching the defense. He's going to be running by guys, juking guys, you know, and celebrating going down the field. I mean, think to the North Carolina game in 2000. This is the 19th season coming up. So 2017. You know, we're down at the half, come out of the half, double move. Malik Rozier puts the ball on him. All of a sudden, there's nobody on his side of the 50 because he's undressed a guy and he scored from 75 yards out. Those kind of things are what we should see from Jeff Thomas. So, yeah, in a perfect world, Jeff Thomas is going to be your leading receiver, and I think that that's a pretty clear proposition to me.
I could have taken that question. I should have grabbed that one. I should have given Cam a break. I could have jumped on that one because as soon as I asked that, I thought I can answer that one. I could go with the stretch the field, the 20 yards per catch.
Mm-hmm.
I even remember the North Carolina game and them coming out at halftime. It was like a 10-6 game. It was a pretty ugly game, and boom. And then I remember all the times, and Cam will more so remember them that Jeff Thomas was open, but the ball was nowhere. You know, he was spinning around trying to flag it down, and yeah, he was open, and it just burned the guy. But the quarterback at the time could not connect. Cam Underwood from State of the Utah and Miami Football here each and every Wednesday night with you. We don't have a whole lot of comments. We've got all sorts of comments, the typical rhetoric on the line. But in terms of a question, it goes from 0 to 100 when you talk about the one question that's asked here for you to go through the depth chart at every position. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're not going to ask Cam to do that. He'll be sitting here at midnight dissecting. So let's trim it down to pick a position that intrigues you and something that you would like to just dissect and explain for us in terms of a position that, again, intrigues you and where it stands and where you think it needs to be decided going into August camp and through that month.
Position I'm going to go with is offensive line. Defensive line, there's a lot of depth. And I think that the young defensive tackle, well, I mean, they're not necessarily young anymore, but John Ford is a junior, Nessa Silvera is a sophomore, Pat Bethel's a senior, Chigozie Naruka is going to be a grad transfer from UCLA at D-tackle. So I think that, you know, up front, I think that both of those positions, end and I already talked about the ends before, but, you know, you're going to be adding in a Trayvon Hill to the group already. And I mean, yeah, the up front's going to be fine. Linebackers should be fine as long as, you know, the starters stay healthy and Patrick Joyner continues to progress as he transitions from end to linebacker. Secondary, I think, is going to be fine. You know, we might be looking at a grad transfer at cornerback, maybe a KJ Sales. I know I've seen some of the from North Carolina. That is, I've seen some of our players tweeting with him recently. So maybe bring him in. But either, you know, even without him, I think that, you know, DJ Ivey is going to be take a big step forward. Al Blades Jr. Opposite Trajan Bandy, and then, you know, I've said we already are going to have 3 NFL players, and Gervin Hall, Amari Carter, and Bubba Bolden at safety. So other players do not need to be taking snaps there. Running backs, we're pretty deep. You know, Lorenzo Lingard needs to get fully healthy to be the, you know, number 3 back for right now, which is crazy because, you know, he's a 5-star in just last year's class. But, you know, when he's coming off an injury, he's going to be a little bit behind Harrison Dallas. Wide receivers, I just talked about them. Tight ends, I just talked about them. Quarterbacks, I talked about them. But yeah, offensive line, that's the one because their ability to play better is going to have a huge, huge impact on the season and this offense because you can't run exotic stuff if you can't block. You can't run basic stuff if you can't block. You cannot run a 7-step drop. I mean, well, then again, we're probably not going to take a 7-step drop from center. But even from shotgun, you can't take a 3-5-step drop from shotgun to really give time for the vertical routes to develop if you cannot block. So where I think that needs to be settled is, first of all, I think you need to build from the outside in. So who's going to be your tackles? You know, is it going to be Nelson, you know, true freshman, at left tackle, and then maybe a DJ Scaife at right tackle, maybe a redshirt freshman John Campbell at right tackle, maybe Zalante Hillary, a redshirt sophomore at right tackle? Who are your tackles going to be? Because we have a lot of guard types. Oh, excuse me. Woo. Woo. Oh, there we go. No, talking too fast. I was almost going to get the hiccups. So we have a lot of guard types. So I'm very confident, our interior linemen, if you will, guards and centers. So I'm confident we can find 3 guys to be on the inside, whether that's Navon Donaldson, DJ Scaife, Cleveland Reed, Corey Gaynor, even Tommy Kennedy, who's a grad transfer from Butler, who played exclusively left tackle in his time there, but worked exclusively in the interior line in his time here. So, I think we're going to give up any thought that he's going to be a left tackle. But, I mean, he could be a guy in the interior of the line, maybe even a John Campbell inside, So I think that there's enough there. So you really got to start outside. Who are going to be the tackles? George Brown Jr., transfer from LSU, was a 4-star recruit a few years ago, hasn't played a meaningful snap. Is he going to? Is he going to contend for a spot? Is it going to be Zalante Hillary? Is it going to be John Campbell? Is it going to be Kyleon Herbert, who's a 4-star from American Heritage? Is it going to be DJ Scaife? Is it going to be Zion Nelson? Who are the 2 tackles going to be? And when you build that, then you can go or find those guys. Then you can build inside. And I already gave you the list of names, but there's so many guys who are of a similar caliber that, I mean, Navon Donaldson's going to start. DJ Scaife, he's going to start. Those are returning starters. I don't think they're going to start in the same places that they did last year, which is why, I'm going through the whole thing. But those are 2 guys who are going to start on this line. But find a home for them. Navon Donaldson, he kicked inside to center from left guard after Corey Gaynor got hurt. Are you going to leave him at center? Are you going to put him at play side, front side, left guard, next to your left tackle? I would think that would probably be a great pairing, because if you're going to go with Zion Nelson, who's a true freshman, maybe you put a junior who's 6'6", 360, who's a freshman All-American next to him, if in case you need to help or slide or double team or something like that against, an A1 defensive end going against this true freshman. Maybe you do that. I don't know. But again, I think that, you need to set your tackles and then build the inside from there, because, if DJ Scaife is one of the tackles, then obviously he's not going to take an interior position. But if he's not one of the tackles, then obviously, boom, you have 2 guards or a guard and a center with Donaldson and Scaife. So, for me, it's really going to be offensive line, because they just cannot be as bad as they've been. That's just plain and simple. I can't put a more fine point on it than that. So, I want to see the offensive line. That needs to be settled. And I do not care who the 5 are. I don't care where the 5 play. I just need that unit to be better. Periodpointblank.com in the story. So, finding those guys, finding that 5, starting from the tackles and building to the interior offensive line, that's the position that I'm interested in.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, bringing you the best in discussion, debate, and analysis, regardless of team. But, of course, we feature Miami on Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U. So you've got a number of ways in which you can contribute. That's, of course, by liking the videos, sharing the videos, and subscribing right here. And, of course, you can participate in the chat and with the super chat as well. And, of course, grab the Amazon link in the description section of any of the videos, and you do your Amazon shopping right there. Doesn't cost you an extra penny, but you help build the channel. I am amused by the argument in the live chat concerning, first, number of national championships and relevance of national championships between Miami and Texas. And then the secondary argument, Cam, being when modern football started. So I always love this, regardless of sport or level of sport, NFL, college football. When did modern NFL, when did modern college football start? And being an old guy, I'm thinking black and white film versus this. And I think the most legitimate division of the 2 games, meaning modern from pre-modern, would be integration of the black athlete. That's the obvious change in the game, not whether they were wearing leather helmets or whether, because you were born in 1965, you think about 1975 when you started to watch. No, everybody has their own time reference, but that's the only true reference to the talent on the field. Open our eyes, look, 75% of the kids. Well, once we get to the NFL, it certainly shoots up. There are a lot more white athletes on the field in college football, but I don't know what the exact percentages are. But we know that it's a sport that's driven largely by the black athlete. And so I find it funny that some are arguing that 1998, because it was the first year of the BCS, was the first year of modern football. And then I also have 1980 as kind of an arbitrary year. Why 1980? And so I don't know if you have anything to add there, Cam.
No, it's absolutely integration.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it absolutely is. I don't know how you can think or argue otherwise. If you look at the NFL Hall of Fame, you see all of these guys who went to HBCUs, who are in the Hall of Fame, and there are plenty of them. I urge you to go look. They didn't go to HBCUs to spite other institutions. They went there because that's the only place that they could go. And I mean, if you look at LSU, for an example, they were not the biggest, best team in the state of Louisiana. You know who was? Grambling State University, coached by Eddie Robinson. Because all those guys from all these places that are going to LSU now, Ascension, Gonzales, Alabama, Nacogdoches, all these places, they couldn't go to LSU. Couldn't. So they went to Grambling, or they went to Southern, or they went to Tennessee State, FAMU, North Carolina A&T, Bowie State. I mean, I can't name you all the HBCUs because honestly, I don't even know. Because I mean, I can't name you all the other institutions either. I couldn't even name you all the schools of music, and I was a music major. You know what I mean? But all these places are where they went, and they dominated. Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley State. Huh? Excuse me? Where? What? Because that's where they had to go. And then when all of a sudden these teams were getting beat down and they're, looking over at, Grambling and Southern winning these championships and all these other teams, and they say, you know what? We should bring some of those boys over and have them play for our school. And that's
Jerry Rice, I'm sorry to interrupt. Jerry Rice, by that point, he didn't have to go to Mississippi Valley State. There's some kind of backstory, and I don't remember, grades, whatever the situation.
I mean, I don't know.
The early 80s.
Look, I mean, still.
It was totally integrated at that point.
Well,
I mean, mid like 65 to 68 was at the point in which.
I mean, but he still did. And I don't know exactly what the reasonage is, but I mean, like, dude, I mean, if you go back, because I've read some on this because, being Black, I want to know my own history, but like I've done multiple reports and a lot of reading on affirmative action and, integration. You're talking about Alan Bakke versus the Regents of the School of the University of Michigan. You're talking Brown versus the Board of Education. Yeah, schools were integrated, sure. But have you read what some of those people went through and things like that? Like, I mean, everybody wasn't going over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hell, even if you look at Friday Night Lights, I'm still going halfway through that book. You want to talk about integration and those kind of things? Like, yeah, I'm not going to get too high on my high horse and, go dive too far. But like the clear line of demarcation between prior or ancient and modern, whatever you want to call it in college football, was the decision of non-HBCUs, PWIs, whatever you want to call them, to integrate their sporting teams. I mean, what's the movie with Texas Southern basketball?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, or when they beat Kentucky and everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just it's not just football, but like I just think it is too. Sometimes the obvious answer is the right answer, and in this case, I do believe it would be integration across the board.
Absolutely, same thing in any other sport. Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, certainly more so than any other sport. It's not even close. That's what it is. Not, I just love people. All of our reference otherwise is just attached to how old we are. And at what point, obviously every year is just a minor, small progression or evolution of talent, of scheme, of coaching techniques, of all those things that you can't say, boom, 1980, except for, because then.
Look, I'm not even a historical scholar. I have a couple friends who are very big into those kind of things. However, if your perception is based upon only things that you have seen, then I urge you to read more. Everybody didn't read their Shakespeare in school. Maybe you should have. Maybe you didn't read your Invisible Man, your Ralph Ellison. Maybe you didn't read your Black Boy Richard Wright. Maybe you didn't do these other kind of things. But, books have been around for a long, long time. And there's a lot of knowledge in there. And I would just urge you to maybe expand your horizons and read a little something. Maybe.
Absolutely. None of us read enough anymore, or very few of us, I should say. I'm not going to exclude everyone. Most of us do probably more reading, but it's about 3 words at a time on a phone that's the extent of our reading now, and it's the same words over and over and over in very short spurts. Twitter, etc. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Miami, talking anything on the college football landscape with Cam Underwood from State of the U, who often shows us that in addition to just Miami, can go to other subjects that are more weighty than just the 2019 Miami football team. But that's where we are right now. And
I mean, there's layers to the onion, man. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a dynamic person. You know, there's more than just sports over here. That's all I'm going to say. But I mean, I'm here for sports, so we can talk about sports.
We will continue to talk about sports and specifically college football. And really, nobody has anything specific in the live chat. I think they were carried away with our extension of that conversation, which started in the live chat. I remember a conversation that I had at one point. This was about Major League Baseball. The same discussion was being had about so-and-so this. Well, you can't count all that because it didn't happen in the modern era. And I always love asking people this question. When did the modern era start? And this person was struggling, and then they just pulled a name out of the air and said, when Mickey Mantle started playing. Why? Magically, when Mickey Mantle started playing, it was just a completely different game? Why? Again, segregation and then integration would be the only proper, because of the talent pool, would be the only appropriate answer. Yes, there were other innovations to the game where you could say, oh, there's a demarcation there slightly, but to just say that guys on the field in 1979 and then suddenly they were totally different game in 1980. No, basically it was the same people playing. All right, Cam Underwood from State of the U talking Miami football. All right, we're heading toward August. There was a big recruiting weekend that you previewed for us, prepped us for. Did anything come out of there of note?
Nothing concrete, as in no commitments or anything like that. But the recruiting weekend that was on April the 13th for the first spring game, or the second spring scrimmage, the first public one that was at Traz Powell. It's always just good to get guys around, man. Justin Flo, 5-star linebacker, the number 1 linebacker in America, flew in from California, and he was on hand for an unofficial visit. And he's talking about he's going to come back for an official visit. Of guys, recruits who were there. Isaiah Walker Jr., who's a 4-star offensive tackle recruit from Miami Norland. He was there. Some 2021 guys and everything. So, I mean, it was more just a laying foundation and kind of behind the scenes because, until a kid really comes out and says, hey, this is my leader, or hey, these are my top schools, or yes, I'm committed here, like releases an edit or anything. It's kind of, you're reading some tea leaves and you're trying to talk to, either the kid themselves or, various sources, or, there's a variety of recruiting sites out there and things like that, and kind of piecing together the information. So, just the biggest thing is really, everybody was talking about it was a family atmosphere. All the kids who were there were talking about the fact that they got to interact with the coaches and they got to see how they coach their positions and saw how they could potentially fit into the field or what they could bring if they were out there, how they could impact the game. So that was really the biggest thing. Jalen Knighton from Deerfield Beach High School is a 4-star running back, was previously committed to Clemson, I think. Oklahoma, excuse me. He's committed to Oklahoma, but he was there at the scrimmage, and he was talking about the fact of he was looking around and could see himself in orange and green and things like that. So, yeah, just a lot of that kind of foundation work being laid. And on the other podcast that I was on, and you can see the link is up on stateoftheu.com, so I don't need to go further than that. But the question was asked again to a different panelist about how many visits does a player like a Justin Flo, a 5-star from out of state, Darnell Washington, he's a 6'8" tight end from Las Vegas, Desert Pines High School, Antoine Sampa from Woodbridge, Virginia. It's like elite kids at their positions. How many visits need to have happened before them coming to Miami is a realistic possibility? And another panelist, the same other panelist that I referenced before, he said that two visits need to happen. And I wanted just to piggyback on that. It needs to be 2 visits, and it needs to be an unofficial and an official visit. So one paid by the player, one paid by the school. Because when you pay for yourself, to, you know, a transcontinental flight, that's going to cost. Like, even if you have family members in aviation or rewards points or miles or whatever, like, it's still going to cost you some money to get out there. So when you pay your own way, that shows that you're really interested. Because, hey, Ma, Dad, like, no, I really want to go over here and see this place. You know, and then coming back for the official visit, that progresses the connection. So if you think about Devontae Smith, wide receiver who's at Alabama from Amite, Louisiana, when he was a 5-star, he came down for Paradise Camp a few years ago, and he said all the right things. And he did all the right things. And he said, yeah, I'm going to come back for an official visit. Like, I'm really into Miami. Like, they're in my top 3 or 4. The whole entire cycle. It got to be the last weekend in January. His high school basketball playoffs were going on. You know, Devontae Smith, because he could hoop too. So he's out there. And so somebody was out there and asked him, okay, cool. So, like, you coming to Miami this weekend? He goes, I mean, we'll see. Wait, what? He's like, yeah, that's your official visit. It's already scheduled. He's like, yeah, we'll see. And then, like, on Friday morning, he was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to my Miami visit. Okay, well, then there's no chance. You know what I mean? So it needs to be 2 visits for elite players from out of state, and unofficial where they pay their way, and then an official where we bring them in and really roll out the red carpet, because you can have kind of different contact levels a little bit on an official visit versus unofficial. So, you know, but yeah, when you're laying the foundation for some of those guys, you know, Justin Flo, he was there. Darnell Washington was not there for that game itself, but he took an unofficial, in close proximity to that. Your Jake Garcia from 2021 class, 5-star potential quarterback. He's taken an unofficial where he's paid his way across the country. Hopefully you get some other guys like a Khalil Ringo, who's a 5-star cornerback from Arizona. I want to say he's like 6'2", 210 and runs like a 4.5, like ridiculous. But when those guys pay their own way, that starts to lay the foundation, and you get them back for their official visit. That's really what will progress the thing. So, you know, I think that the visits that happened on the 13th, for those kids who were out of town or out of state coming in, it was the first step of that kind of a process. But yeah, you're really going to see Miami be a little bit more selective, hopefully, in this class. So yeah, sometimes you do have to play the long game a little bit, and especially with an entirely new staff on offense and a new head coach, you're going to have some of the recruiting stagnate a little bit, because you are proving yourself to the student or to the players, just like they're proving themselves to you. So I think that is the biggest takeaway from the visits on the 13th. So we just got to press forward, and go from here.
I did not intend to drag us back to the previous topic, but D-Rev Lee makes a very good point that needs to be conveyed. So once the sport was integrated, it's not like it was, bam, integrated, and all of a sudden there were all sorts of black athletes on every college football team. It was a trickle, and it took several years in which the sport was integrated. It's not like Jackie Robinson hit the field one year, and then boom, the next year, boom, everybody, the floodgates were open, and there was fair participation. That did not occur. It took several years in both cases.
Right. And I mean, you look at Larry Doby, who played for the Cleveland Indians. Yep. And he was the first African-American player in the American League, because Jackie Robinson obviously was in the National League. And that was my point with, referencing, board versus the Brown of Education, board versus the Brown versus the Board of Education. I got it backwards. I'm sorry. Things were integrated, but you had, like little Susie and, little Dave, like the first kids, but it wasn't like, okay, cool. It wasn't 50% integrated. It was like a little drop here, a drop there, and it kind of the faucet opened and things like that. So it in places in general, in like regular life where integration happened, and in sports, yes, it was a gradual process, not an overnight process. That is a very good and clearly stated point, sir.
I will certainly give this up to Cam, but I stated a couple weeks ago that it was much too early to break down the Florida game, but I will defer to Cam on these many matchup questions that people are making.
I'll take a couple.
Let's take into consideration that this game is 4 months away. All right, so the Florida tight end is a bit of a beast, and people are wondering, several actually, about containing the tight end on defense.
Who? Like, honestly and truly, like who's their tight ends? Like why
pretty well, but I'm not recognizing. Are you concerned about Miami stopping Florida's tight end Lucas Kroll? Let me look up his stats. I would normally think that I would know the Florida tight end if he played a lot last year.
I have them in front of me. He played in 13 games, had 6 catches for 75 yards.
Whoa! I'm not.
The tight ends in front of him had 8 catches for 106 and 9 catches for 128. No, I'm not concerned with that. I believe that we will be able to, and that's really talking about the second level and the interior of the defense. So if we're being real about it, that comes down to, do I trust our safeties in coverage? Yes. Do I trust our linebackers, in zone or depending on, or pattern matching or whatever it happens to be? Yes, I do trust them. But no, they don't. Kamora Gamble, went to Southridge with Mark Pope and decided that he wanted to go to Florida instead of Miami. And he had, Control Shift Tab. If I open that back up, as a freshman, Kamora Gamble had 7 catches for 58 yards. In 13 games of action. Lucas Kroll played in 13. He had 6 catches. I don't understand. Maybe it's a troll question, but no, they haven't proven anything that I need to be scared of. Respect all opponents and fear none, but especially guys who are coming off of seasons where the most catches at that position was 9 for the year. And if you add up the total catches, because I'm going to do this math right now, 9 plus 8 is 17 plus 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 6 is 23, plus 7 is 30. So 30 catches for the entire season? No. What about that is frightening. No. Respect all opponents and fear none. But that position, if you want to ask about Florida's offense and guys that maybe give you a little bit of pause, how about Kadarius Toney, who's fast and shifty? How about Van Jefferson and Trayvon Grimes, who are fast and big wide receivers? How about those guys? But tight end? Nah, not concerned at all. Just as long as we do our job, no. If Shaq Quarterman goes to cover a tight end and falls face first, and Gervin Hall and Amari Carter run into each other like it's a cartoon and fall down, and the guy's open for 75 yards, that would be more concerning to the defense than about them. But I don't see what a Florida tight end presents that is problematic at this. I honestly don't see it. If somebody does see it, then tweet me at Underwood Sports, at the State of the U. Let me know. But I don't see it.
Yeah, I take pride in tracking the best players on every team and knowing the impact players on both sides of the ball, especially guys that accumulate stats, which are obviously offensive skill position players. And I just drew a blank, and I thought, well, I didn't draw a blank. I thought maybe I did, and thought Florida tight end. They got some guy that caught 60 passes last year. I can't. And then I referenced the name there. So not necessarily a combination of Jason Witten and John Mackey. You talk about integration back in the day. John Mackey, one of the first tight ends as a African-American in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay. Blake Baker. I always find it fascinating when a very centric head coach takes over a program, Manny Diaz, defense, and then the role of the coordinator under him. So your thoughts about Blake Baker, if you could really tell anything from defensive play during spring or what was talked about.
Blake Baker was brought in because Blake Baker learned under Manny Diaz, and he's going to run the same exact defense. And that defense was number 1 in America, number 1 in tackles for loss, number 1 in passing defense. 5th in sacks. Havoc rate was up there, number 1 for defensive line, number 3 for front 7, because the linebackers factor into that as well. He's going to continue to propagate the same paradigm that we've seen. And I don't see a problem with that. He's going to coach linebackers as well, but Manny's obviously going to still work with them a little bit. I know Manny's coaching the whole entire team, but he's not going to be hands off, So yeah, when you want to be a head coach and you're going to give the reins of the defense up, it makes sense to bring in the guy who replaced you the last time that you left, or 2 times ago. So when Manny Diaz left from Louisiana Tech to go to Mississippi State, Blake Baker had been on that staff as an assistant and then got promoted to defensive coordinator. And go look at Louisiana Tech's defense. They did some things where they're creating havoc. Obviously, Jalen Ferguson is your new career-leading sack master in college football history. So yeah, I am perfectly fine with it. I think that, where I think we're going to see maybe a little bit of difference is the feel for calling blitzes. Manny was consistent calling blitzes, and sometimes that came to bite him a little bit. He would just call them, first quarter, 3rd and 8, I'm still calling a blitz. And maybe that blitz got home later and you set it up early. So I think that's really going to kind of be when you call those specials, if you will, the blitzes and those kind of packages, I think that's where we're going to see a departure for Blake Baker versus Manny Diaz. But I'm perfectly fine with him because he runs the exact scheme of defense, I believe, that Manny Diaz instilled in him from his time in a couple places. I want to say he was a grad assistant before with him at Texas, I want to say, and then at Louisiana Tech. So, I'm perfectly fine with him being there. And I look forward to seeing what a Blake Baker defense looks like. And it is my extreme hope and goal that it looks pretty damn similar to what a Manny Diaz defense looked like these last few years.
It's not broke, don't fix it. And when you've got a top 5 defense across the board in just about every statistical category and measurement, especially when the offense is getting off the field 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and leaving you in bad field position, and you're still achieving those kind of numbers, even in scoring defense, that's not quite there, but again, not helped out by the offense, and scoring defense plays into offensive proficiency as well. No need to tinker too much with that. Prince, 6'1", on the line, a bit of a inside joke between us, and actually not inside because it was for all to see. I will let you know, Prince, that I was challenged on my scheduling formula, non-conference scheduling formula by MCD Sports 4, and he quickly decided that I had the right approach to fixing non-conference scheduling in college football. Okay, back to Cam, State of the U. Obviously, check it out, lock it in. Miami sports location for you, Canes fans, regardless of the sport, and especially football, of course, with the NFL draft kicking off tomorrow night. Devin Ray is asking for an overview of special teams and what we can expect there.
Special teams is going to hopefully put, the best players on the field. Bubba Baxa, he still needs to refine his accuracy, but he does have a very strong leg. And I think, we didn't kick the ball or go for field goals all the time last year when we could have. But as I have the stats up in front of me, if I go back, and I go down one more. Sorry, just hold on with me. Not kickoffs, place kicking. There we go. Bubba Baxa was 75%. He was 9 for 12 and 45 out of 46 on extra points. So, solid if unspectacular, but you know what? I'll take that. So if we have some marginal progression from him where he, maybe goes 12 for 14 on field goals, so upping his percentage and, makes all of his extra points, that would be great. And, hopefully we score more than 46 touchdowns this year. That'd be great. Offense. Hey, Alejandro Cardenas had 2 extra points as well, but, that was probably in the Savannah State game. Hopefully marginal progression at a minimum from Bubba Baxa. Lewis Headley, your viral sensation superstar, the 25-year-old Australian punter, who's, 6'5", 245, worked scaffolding in the Australian desert and owned a tattoo shop in Bali for a while, which is why he's tatted everywhere. Really interesting stories, and there's like many outlets, including ours, that have done profiles on him. But he's going to come in and hopefully be your punter. He's going to be a really, really big addition, and in a traditional punting way, and also Australian rules punting, because being a big dude from Australia, you've played rugby and Australian rules football, so you can kind of roll out and kick like that. So that's going to be it. In return, I just want to see guys out there, playing to their speed level. I don't want to see guys out there thinking. You know what I mean? Jeff Thomas. What's his name? Nigel Bethel had a kick return for a touchdown in the scrimmage at Traz Powell. DJ Dallas, Mark Pope. There's enough guys on this team who have speed and wiggle in space where the return game should be okay. So yeah, that's really kind of what it's going to be like. I really want to see the coverage units get a little bit better, and I think that when we're not playing walk-ons on kick coverage like we were in the spring, I think that things are going to get a little bit better, because Nigel Bethel's touchdown in the spring game shouldn't have been a touchdown. I mean, it was a nice return. He's fast. He showed off his athleticism and everything, but like, you're going up against some dudes who are not going to play. And I mean, like, at all. I mean, I'm not going to call names, but like, there were like honestly walk-ons on the kick coverage unit. And yeah, I'm of the mind that you need to have backups and starters out there. And I mean backups who play, not like, the end of the bench, but like your second string, your like Gervin Hall. If he's not, if you have Amari Carter and Bubba Bolden starting at safety, then Gervin Hall should be out there. Al Blades, leave him out there on special teams, things like that. You just play your best players. You know, Virginia Tech obviously did that for years. There's other teams that have really strong special teams. So I want to see that. So that's my personal little thing. And I think that, you know, when we have the guys in a real good position, you know, like your actual starters and starting unit on special teams, the coverage unit is actually going to be better. But that's my quick overview of special teams as we sit 4 months to the day from, you know, Miami beating Florida.
August 24th, all by itself. It should be quite a spectacle there in Orlando, and I'm going to enjoy that just because it extends the college football season 1 week. We get to focus on that one particular game, and it doesn't have to fight about 4 or 5 other really good games that next weekend. So it's a good thing. I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing for the players and the preparation with one less a week to prepare for that kind of game, but for us, the fans, it's a good thing.
Well, we're going to start earlier, you know, because you should, I believe, get a waiver. So, you know, they're talking about moving up Paradise Camp into June because fall camp is going to start a little bit earlier because we're playing a week earlier. So, you know, our whole schedule is going to be shifted. So, you know, yeah, all of that goes together.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. So again, you need to show your appreciation to hopefully me, but more so Cam, who spends his Wednesday nights with us just about each and every week. And we've got about 15, 16 weeks probably to the Florida game. So plenty of time to talk Florida matchup and the huge one against the 2 powers from the SEC and the ACC from the Sunshine State. All right. One last thing, unless anybody else has anything interesting. People are asking about Mike Harley and D. Wiggins being more of a presence at the wide receiver spot.
I think that everybody needs to fight for their position. I think everybody needs to fight for their job. And if they do their job and they earn it, then they can be a bigger factor. I mean, yeah, it's really on them. You know, they got to stay after. And this is a thing that I spoke about earlier with KJ Osborne coming in and teaching or showing the guys how it is to practice and to work towards being a professional. You know, like you got to stay after on the jugs machine. You know, you got to get one of the quarterbacks and, you know, run routes. So you're working both on your route running and your hands. You know what I mean? Like you got to do those things. So, you know, if they're willing to put in the work and that work, you know, proves itself in the form of production, then they or anyone else can carve the role for themselves that they want. Because especially at the wide receiver position, the group is very talented. And the separation of that group is less than other places. So if you want to play, you're going to have to go and take it from somebody, take snaps away from other people. And that is going to happen by your work and your work ethic and your performance in practice. And, you know, just when Miami was great, all the practices were harder than the games. All these guys said it. DJ Williams, Willis McGahee, anybody, Santana Moss. So, yeah, I mean, practice was hard as hell. You know, because I'm skipping the line. I'm trying to, you know, hey, coach, no, I'm trying to be up there. And you want to fight your teammates because, no, I'm trying to get these reps. I'm trying to show you that on Saturday, oh, yeah, nah, we got it easy. So I know that you mentioned D. Wiggins and Mike Harley specifically, but that goes for everybody. If Mark Pope doesn't put the work in, even though I think that he can be a breakout player in this offense, had a 52-yard end around or jet sweep in the spring scrimmage at Traz Powell, Mark Pope is going to sit his happy ass on the bench then. If he doesn't do the work and other guys did. So it's not just about them. It's about everybody. You got to go. You got to earn it. You got to take that playing time. It's not going to be gifted to you as playing time was for last year's starting quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be gifted to you. You got to go and take it. So whether it's the guys you named or anybody else at any other position, you have to step up and show us that you want to be here, that you want to play. Because Manny Diaz is talking about this new Miami. And if you do things to a high level all the time, Shaq Quarterman continue to do things at a high level. If it is a question about you doing them to a high level, then come hell or high water, you better figure out a way to prove to these coaches and to your teammates that you're going to be new and different in a good way. Otherwise, you're going to be watching the show on the sideline while somebody else is running those routes, catching those balls, scoring those touchdowns, and winning these games.
Amen. Preach it.
Boom. Hey, man, it starts going downhill and get a little momentum, boy. And I mean, yeah, it gets going.
So we appreciate everyone in the live chat, and we also appreciate those that encourage others to like the video. So this is a very simple process. Hit the like button on all the videos. We should have as many people liking the videos as come through and appreciate and take part in the live chat. Also, you can share the video. So after this is done posting, I'm going to take all the conversations from tonight, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and now Miami, and I'm going to segment those so somebody can just watch the Miami content in particular. So share the videos, and also, of course, comment as you are in the live chat, but also to the posted video. So if you've joined the conversation late, you know what to do. Wait for the video to post, and you can go back and watch it in its entirety. Also, share the video, subscribe to the channel, of course. You can also help us out on the Super Chat as well. Join us on Patreon at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and on Amazon, of course. I'm sure Cam could even recite the spiel at this point. Grab the link in any of the description sections of any of the videos, the Amazon link, and you help support the channel without spending an extra penny. Cam, state of the U.
Yeah, that's it, man. So, hopefully you liked my last little sermon there as I got rolling. But thank you guys for the support, the continued support. And hopefully we keep bringing you content that is worthy of your support. So you can follow me on Twitter at Underwood Sports. Our website's Twitter, which I also manage, is at The State of the U. On Facebook.com/The State of the U is another place you can find us. And also on our website, stateoftheu.com. We have a great crew of contributors. We're recruiting new contributors right now. So I'm going through, I think I have 53 applicants already, which is,
wow.
There's always a lot of talented people, and it's always a tough decision to, see who we bring in. But, last year, brought in Marshall Thomas and Gabby Uterudia to the group, and those are two of our superstars. Those two of our top contributors. So, it's always a fun experience to see new people coming in and hopefully joining our group. So we will continue to hopefully bring you top-level commentary and analysis and everything that you can look for from a Miami Hurricanes site. So I know others claim to be the best, but we know where that is, and that's at stateoftheu.com. So come on over and fan with us.
So I guess you folks just won't let this thing die. So we're going to let Cam go. I was going to let the live stream go, but Zoe's asking to come on. We'll let Zoe come on and talk a little Miami football. I do have a record at 10 o'clock Eastern time, and then I'm going to catch a break finally talking some Texas A&M football.
All right. Well,
Cam, appreciate you stopping by, man.
Definitely.
Always.
So Zoe, you got the mic, man. You guys have some good time, and I'm going to go finally eat some dinner. I'll talk to you.
Oh, that's what I need to do too. I've basically been scraping together like nuts and whatever cereal today. Yeah, a real dinner after I get done with this. Cam, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure. All right, so we're going to keep the live chat going here for a few minutes. And Zoe, you've got the link. Zoe, I have sent you the link. Hopefully you can find it. It's in your email, and we'll bring Zoe on here and maybe drum up a little bit more Miami talk and maybe some more people on the line. So unfortunately, what happened was I originally had scheduled an Ohio State live stream at 7 o'clock. That was unfortunately canceled because the guest could not make it. Therefore, I struck up a live stream at 6:30 for a call-in show. I had a guest from Oklahoma at 7 o'clock or 7:30, then at 8 o'clock, an Ohio State guest. So I just kept the same live stream going through the Miami conversation, and now we'll keep it going here. But typically when you guys are being the Miami nation, Miami fans, see that I've got a Miami live stream in the works, we get more than 70 some on the line. We get 125 or 150. We actually, this was sometime after the end of the season when all the Manny Diaz and Mark Richt talk was going on. We had 350 on a live stream at one point. So if you guys would let people know that we're here talking Miami, talking other college football on a Wednesday night, then we can really jack up these numbers as we head toward college football season. We've got 68 on the line right now. And again, I'm going to hang on the line as long as Zoe says he's going to jump on the line to talk more Miami and do some more preaching, I guess. All right, Zoe, if you would let me know whether you're coming on. Otherwise, I'm going to take myself about a 20-minute break, and then I've got to talk Texas A&M football, so we don't have much time anyway. But Steve Hellwagon gave me two great ideas for videos. Maybe I'll go back to the year 2000, and I will take the preseason AP Top 25 and then the postseason AP Top 25 to see which teams underperformed their preseason ranking, which schools outperformed their preseason rankings consistently. Of course, it's going to be hit or miss for most schools because there's not a built-in bias for most schools, but maybe a Notre Dame and a Michigan, as Steve Hellwagon pointed out are two teams that have been overrated typically and consistently over the last 15 years or so. So I may jump on that here soon, but of course we've got so much going on. And for those of you who are locked into the NFL draft, so in the past, I have sat here and locked in on the NFL draft, and I have provided my analysis for every 5 to 10 picks. I've jumped on live, knocked out a live stream and analysis for each 5 to 10 picks of the NFL draft. I will be working the NFL draft at my regular job, so therefore I will not, unfortunately, be here. However, for anyone who wants to jump on the line at 1 a.m., 1 a.m. tomorrow night, meaning Thursday night, Friday morning at 1 a.m., I will be here to talk NFL draft. I just today in the mail received my NFL Draft Bible, courtesy Rick Saratella of the NFL Draft Bible. So I appreciate that. Looking good. It's right here. So we've got our NFL Draft Bible, and we will be live with the NFL Draft analysis at 1 a.m. tomorrow. Zoe, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Mark? I wanted to get on with Cam. I've been trying to get on with Cam for like a minute now. I just want to thank him for everything he do for the University of Miami. I was laying in my bed and I seen you were on, and I was like, let me get on. Huh?
We'll bring you on for the last 5 minutes next week if that works for you.
Yeah, that works. I just want to thank him for everything he do, because he is the like you the voice of college football. He is the what in the world? I don't know what happened just now.
Hopefully you're with us. We can hear you. Fine.
Yeah, I can't see. You can't see me.
Yeah, I cannot see you.
I don't know what happened just now, but he is the voice of college football to me. So even though you can't see me, I'm not gonna stay on too long, especially since you can't see me. But you are the voice of college football, and to me, Cam is the voice of Miami. I just really respect. I love it when you have that young man on, because you two guys seem to click very well together. He most definitely brings so much insight. Just everything he does for the channel, man. I mean, everything he does for the University of Miami, everything you guys do for each other, and for the college football YouTube community, man. I just appreciate it, and I love watching you two guys go at it. I mean, you two guys not go at it, but you two guys speak college football. It's just real to me, and to be able to get on with both you guys, it just would be a blessing to me. I just really respect. You know how I feel about you, so I just really respect what you do. And like I said, to have him in, it's just I love watching y'all. I love every time you do a show with Cam, I watch the whole show because I get so much insight.
Well, I certainly don't need to do much except kind of referee and facilitate, and just serve him a few questions, or just name a name or a position and just let him go. So I know that he would appreciate hearing that. I was trying to figure out, something came to mind about a month ago when I had Cam on in regards to when was the first time he was on. And I went back to if you remember, Miami-Louisville, Teddy Bridgewater Louisville team playing in the Russell Athletic Bowl. This was after the 2013 season. That was the first time that I ever had Cam on. I went back in my videos to try to find, and that was the one I pinpointed having him on. So this was almost 6 years ago, the first time I had him on, and he's contributed a lot. And this is one of the main reasons why I have a ton of Miami support, is because Cam used to post my videos on State of the U. And so I've got to thank him a ton for bringing traffic to my channel. And so I'm sure he would appreciate your kind words, and it would be great for the three of us to mix it up. I would just sit back and listen to you guys talk about it. And so we could bring you on. When I say 5 minutes, we could do a full show with you two, and I could just sit back and enjoy you guys going back and forth about Miami football. We could do that.
I don't know if I could do a whole show with Cam. The best person to do a whole show with Cam would probably be would be the wholesome one.
Yeah, that as well.
Those two guys would be like, you know what I'm saying? Those two guys, like I say, the wholesome one forgot more about football than I know. So I mean, I enjoy great content, man. I enjoy what you're doing. I just enjoy the great content, man. It's just unbelievable. it's just unbelievable what you have going right now, man. And I tell people, man, for real, there is no reason why you shouldn't be at at least 30,000 subscribers. We have got to get, you guys have got to share and do everything you can to get Mark at about 30,000, man, for real, because I'm telling you, man, Voice of College Football, you do your thing, Mark, and we truly appreciate you, man.
Well, so we both talked about it last week, whether it's your effort or mine. I don't think people understand the effort that goes into it, and we're not going to whine and complain or anything about it. We love college football, and Zoe loves Miami in particular. So we love to do it, but just realize that, and this is no threat by any stretch. Don't take it this way, but there needs to be support to continue. That's all there is to it, or to continue at this rate, or to make it even better. And again, I'm really going to invest in a couple different cameras, because I would love to have the close-up shot and also the studio shot once I do some things back here and make it look nice. My desk is about this big, and I'm looking at desks that are going to be larger and just a better setup, and would like to have multiple cameras and one camera that I can take on remote to Orlando at the end of August.
Yeah, because I'm getting me a camcorder. I'm definitely investing in me a camcorder. I'm investing in. I listened to your video the other day, and I've been working out. But I shared your video. If anybody hadn't seen that, the upload of Mark Rogers talking about God and health, please go look at that video. It was very inspirational. Like I said, I put it on my Facebook channel. I want to be ready for Orlando. I want to be in the best shape of my life, and I'm working on getting my merchandise, and just being there and enjoying it with the family, man. I mean, it's not a big family, but it's a tight knit family, and just being able to have you in Orlando and be able to talk to you, and having Cam there and having the wholesome one there, and hopefully college football vids. I mean, Coach Coop can make it there, and maybe a few guys from Ohio State make video maker. Maybe we can get online. I really think that the momentum is moving forward with what you're doing with YouTube, and like I said, you're one of the main reasons why most of us got into it. Serious, you're one of the main reasons why most of us got into it, and I'm just happy to see you grow, and want to continue to see you grow, because if you grow, we all grow, and people need to understand that. So the support will always be there for you, my brother.
So what you just said means a ton on so many different levels. So when you posted that video, reposted what I did on Facebook. So I'm going to ask everyone to go to Facebook and to like my page, but more specifically to like Zoe's page, even if you don't intend on going back to Facebook. So understand the credibility factor. We could have great channels, and if somebody sees you've got 500 subscribers, tons of people will just blow you off and not even consider you. They have no idea how good you are. They just think that guy's got 500 subs. He must suck. There must not be anything here. You could go to the same channel and see where somebody has 50,000 subs and you think they're great automatically, and it has nothing to do with how good they are. I had a number of people, as I've been progressing, show up at my channel and basically take a shot at, oh, you only have 1,200 subs, you must suck. Then I said, just watch the content, watch the video. And they've come back and they apologized because they just assumed I was no good because I didn't have that many subs at that point, and by some measurements still don't. So don't take that into consideration. So what I'm saying is, you support Zoe and you support me by going to Facebook and just liking our pages, because the higher that number is, it shouldn't matter what the number is, but just automatically the higher it is, the more credibility it gives us. The other thing with that video, Zoe, is somebody asked me, why did you post a video like that? And I said, you know what? College football, I love it, but it's not important. So in the grand scheme of things, college football, we love it, we enjoy it, but it's not important. So I have always had the intention, what do I do with this? This is something I love and I talk about, but I want it to be for a greater good, whether that's giving to charity, pointing out to people that they can be better in life, that they can be inspired, that they can serve God, whatever that's going to make them better and make them feel better about themselves and help other people. That I've always thought, what can I do that would extend into that realm, like you've done with your Facebook page. And that's the only reason I actually just jumped in the car and I grabbed my phone and thought, I have something to say today. I just went on a run and I just soaked in God's nature and it was just beautiful. And I just thought, I am blessed and I just want to share with people, hey, embrace the day and think about something that could make you better today, whether that's to get on the diet you should be on, get on the workout program, reconnect with a friend that you haven't talked to that you really need to talk to, whether that's doing a kind deed for somebody, whatever that is, building your plan, building your business as Zoe and I are doing. Just seize the day, basically, was my message.
And yeah, I do the same thing with it. I do a lot of like I said, I was a real big fan of Nipsey Hussle before he passed away, and just watching the things that he did in California. That's why I'm starting another channel, which is 1219 Attitude Personified, just to talk about being able to uplift yourself, not pretend yourself with government issues and stuff like that, things that are out of your control. You still need to vote. But what can you do to uplift yourself and uplift your community? Things of that nature too, because we get so wrapped up in football, and like you say, in the grand scheme of things, it's small. I tell people, and I say it a lot, and it's not because it's racist, but it's just racial. The most segregated day of the week is Sunday. We can do everything together except praise God together. It's because we're so traditionally set into so many ways, and the way we grow as a people is to learn each other. And that's my I feel like that's my mission in life is to help young kids get grow and mature and turn into young men and women, and to just to continue to show love and support, for everybody. Even people you don't like, even your enemy, you should love. You might not deal with them, but you should love your enemy as well. So that message that you put out there the other day, they were simple words, but it was powerful. And sometimes people don't realize you don't have to play word games. You say what you mean what you say, and it can be the most powerful statement. And it was just a powerful statement. So I just felt like I had to share that.
This guy's the man right here. And it's just, it again, just so impresses me and blows me away, Zoe. And I said this last week when we were talking about how sometimes, and I know you say this about yourself sometimes, but I do the same thing on Facebook. I get a little bit fired up about something, and then I respond, and I just think, maybe it wasn't outlandish what I had to say, but did I really need to respond there? And then you just reinforce that regardless of what's stated, hey, we're tight, we're good, and we can disagree, and it's still good. We still love and respect each other, and that just reinforces, hey, this is even better than I thought it was. That I didn't get Zoe pissed off at me by saying what I had to say.
Why would you? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you agree with me on everything, then you're setting me up for failure. You are setting me up for failure if you agree with me on everything. The wholesome one totally got me a couple weeks ago. That's not what you said. I said, that is what I said. I said it differently, but he blasted me on my channel. And I was like, I couldn't say nothing because he was right. And I was just like, I wanted to scream at him, but he was right. And you have to have people in your corner that's going to let you know a difference of opinion, not whether you're right or wrong, but that's going to give you a difference of opinion to open your mind up to broader thoughts, so you have to have that. If you don't have that, then you're set up for failure.
All right. It is 9:54 Eastern time. I've got a 10 o'clock record with Texas A&M, so I can hang on maybe for 2 or 3
No, you're
minutes.
good. Go do your thing. I appreciate you getting me in for a second. I just really wanted to let you guys know that I really appreciate what you and Cam have done, man. Cam is he's just I just enjoy listening to him. I'm telling you, the wholesome one is a young Cam, basically.
Yep.
And people be like, you just push the wholesome. It's because I remember watching him when he had 50 subscribers, and I was like, this young, like you say, it doesn't matter subscribers. This young man is amazing, and he's the future of it. I'm 43. I'm gonna do it for some years, but he's really the future of what's going on. And to be able to have that young man and like I said, he sounds like Cam. It's like I just love what he does, and I have the utmost respect for Cam Underwood and what he does, and I'm just like I said, it's just a privilege to be able to listen to you and him and the wholesome one is and Coach Coop and and actually even my friend slash enemy over there, Uncle Lou. You know, he has some crazy things to say, but it's a different perspective.
Yeah.
No, and it gives you just a different, it gives you a different light on what people may think, and I'm a fan of his because of what he do. Another one out there is Pigskin Pete, the Clemson video maker. He's another good one who gives good analysis and doesn't get the hype as a lot of as you or I get or as Cam gets, but I think he's on. I'm surprised he doesn't have many subs with all those national championships. But I'm telling you, you started this. You really, it's people that did it before you, but you're the one who really took the bull by the horns and said, "Freak it! I'm going to get all of these teams together, and I'm going to do these videos, and no matter what, this is what I'm gonna do." And you have really taken the bull by the horns, and that's why you're the voice of college football.
We did spring reports on 31 teams. So that wasn't 31 videos. That was 31 teams. And we did probably an average of 3 to 5. So we did about 150 to 200 spring practice videos.
And I would be dead. I would be dead. I'm trying to do a half a video a week.
Well, I got to tell you, after sitting here from 6:30 until 10, and it's going to be about another half hour. Yeah, my rear end's going about numb at this point, but that's why I keep moving around. But
I mean, this is you're good. Put it this way: one day this is gonna be your company, your job. This is what you're gonna do, and you will be able to work a lot longer because you'll be a lot happier.
I appreciate it, man. You're the best, and yeah, if we can find that secret sauce or that turn the secret code. And there's so many people that comment in the live chat when we discuss trying to build the channels that have a lot of suggestions. I'm going to butcher his name because I don't know how he pronounces the beginning of it, but it looks like James Scott comments all the time and encourages people to like the channel and like the videos. And he just made a comment that, he grabbed a link in the one of the description sections of the videos to grab the Amazon link to help build the channel. He's like asking me, I want to help support the channel. Where's the Amazon link? And he did that for me and said he had a purchase tonight. And that just, it's just a small percentage, boom, 2-3%. But if enough people do that, that can help, again, build the channel. And that's what we're looking to do, both Zoe and I here. So we'll have to connect before next Wednesday night. Cam usually comes on at 8:30, and I'm telling you, Zoe, you are welcome to come on the entire time, and I will kick back and have a good time listening to you two. And you don't give yourself enough credit because, yeah, he's got all the info, the stats and the numbers and the weights and the measurements and all that, but you can just talk to him about what you love watching with Miami football, and I bet he will play off of that, and you guys will tear it up, and nobody will ever want me back on here.
No, I guess it's paying homage to you, and y'all are great. And like I say, same thing with the wholesome one. I guess it's just paying homage. It's paying homage and respect to guys who have been doing it for such a long time. And as great as you guys been doing it, man, the way I get better is to sit back and listen to you guys, and it's definitely changed me this year for the better. So, I mean, it's paying homage, and I just appreciate what you guys do.
All right, responding to folks in the live chat, we got Zoe. If for anybody, I can't possibly think of anybody who would be on the line who's not familiar with the Zoe's channel. It's Alonzo1219, Alonzo1219, the U family. Check it out, lock in, subscribe, and you will never regret that. So please do that. And again, on Facebook, even if you're not a Facebook person, if you got an account, go to Zoe's channel and go to mine and just like the page. Just like the page and participate if you'd like. That'd be great as well. But even if you're just like, I'm a YouTube guy, but just give us the like. It builds credibility. It shouldn't be that way, but that's just the way it is.
Mark,
I am
did
off
I
to
add
talk
you?
to Texas A&M football. Yeah, Zoe, what you got?
Did I add you to the 1219 Facebook page?
I believe you did. You can double check. I think you did.
Yeah, post your videos and stuff over there as well.
Right. Yeah, I forgot you told me to do that. I'll
Yeah,
get to that.
I'll post them as well, but post your videos over there. That way you can and do me a favor, when you do come to Orlando, get some cards and stuff made up so we can hand them out.
Okay.
Send me some because I'll
Cards.
probably be there a day before you, so
Okay.
we can hand those cards out at Duffy's if you because you're probably gonna be at the game, so we can hand them out at
Well,
the
I don't know.
tailgate.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going. I'm not spending that kind of money for a ticket.
Well, I'm
I
not going
already
to
got
spend that
Duffy's.
kind of money either. No.
I already got Duffy's, and I think we're gonna have a ball at Duffy's.
Okay. We'll do
So-
that. All right. I got to remember that. Cards. I got to put that somewhere where I can't forget that.
Yeah, get you some business cards made up so we can hand those out, and you should gain probably 1,000 subscribers just at that game.
And we're going to get merchandise going here pretty soon too for the Voice of College.
We're gonna
Football.
stream live.
Yes.
You said you want to stream, so
Oh,
we're
it'll be
gonna
great.
stream live. We're gonna stream live from both channels.
Oh, it'll be huge. It'll be great.
So-
All right, Zoe. I'm running off to talk Aggies.
All right, Mark, man.
All right,
I love
man.
you, my
Good to see
brother.
you.
You be safe, man.
Yeah, you too. We'll see you soon.
All right.
All right, everybody. I'm off to record segments that you're going to see in the next few days from Texas A&M. See everybody very soon. I'm late, so I better go.